What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? It is Goodie Nation on Giving Tuesday. I am Joey Womack, founder and CEO, and I think you're in for an absolute treat, y'all. So let's get right into it. So the way that Goodie Nation on Giving Tuesday works is that it is a 4-hour live stream. So think old school telethon, right? So think old school telethon. We're going to tell some awesome stories. We're going to talk about what we did this year. We're going to talk about our plans for next year. We're going to have really a lot of fun, right? So you're going to meet a bunch of dope people. And before we get to that, I'm going to bring to the stage another dope person from our Goodie Nation team. My partner in crime for this particular day, our podcast manager here at Goodie Nation, Casey. So Casey, you want to do a quick intro?
Yes. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. So, yes, I'm Casey, podcast manager for Goodie Nation. Had some amazing opportunities to speak to so many of y'all this year. And we're about to speak to more of you and looking forward to these stories.
Awesome. So here's how today works, right? So for the first 20 or so minutes, we're going to give kind of a background into Goodie Nation, even a behind the scenes peek into the team and the folks that came up with some of the exciting concepts for next year. And so at 10:30, we're going to start with our first segment, which is called the United States of Good, which is a kind of an interesting concept. And I don't want to spoil it too much around how Goodie Nation will be focusing on community building for next year. Then we'll go into a segment focusing on really dope founders, right? And so it's called Grind to Greatness. So you hear from 3 dope founders building in various industries about the work, about resilience, about performance mindset and how that's needed. Then we'll go into a section focused on community builders. So it's called The Plug, y'all. And so at Goodie Nation, our superpower is making the right connection at the right time. And so we're going to do more around supporting community builders, connectors, bridge builders in the overarching Goodie Nation community. Our final kind of main segment for the day will be around investing in the hustle, as we call it. And so this is a 30-minute segment where we'll hear from an actual founder that has raised some capital, has kind of a different opinion on raising capital, particularly venture capital. We're also here from some people that have been a part of our angel investor training program this year. And then we'll conclude with some closing remarks, right? Some remarks about the history of Goodie Nation. Again, more about what we're doing in 2025. But this is really all about creating more awareness, giving a background view into Goodie Nation. And then it's about raising money, right? So it's about raising money. This is Giving Tuesday, an international or global day around supporting just amazing nonprofits that are making the world better. So if the spirit comes over you, please feel free to donate by texting Goodie 24 to 707070. You'll get a response back with a link to our pledge page. Shout out to the pledge team and James Citron over in LA. You get a link to the pledge page where you can make a contribution to Goodie Nation. No amount is too small. We need as much support as ever. And also here's why, right? As you might guess, what's going on in the world, in the country, there is a lot of headwinds against inclusive innovation, a lot of headwinds around diversity and equity, which sounds crazy, right? Sounds crazy, but it is our current reality. And so what that means is it's much more difficult for the Goodie Nations of the world, quite honestly, to get support that we need to keep the doors open and the lights on. And so any amount is highly valued, and we truly appreciate it. And hopefully, you'll be inspired by what we're doing, and want to share more about our work to your network. Casey, did I leave anything out? Anything you want to add?
No, I think you set the day up perfectly. And yes, how are you feeling? This is your fourth Giving Tuesday. How are you feeling about today?
Fourth, so we started in 2020, right? So 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. So fifth year, right?
Yes.
I think this is enough. I think this actually may be enough to kind of call it annual at this point, right? Like fifth annual or something to that effect.
I
Like
think so.
it's tradition, right? So I'm feeling pretty good, right? I remember the first year we did this in 2020 in the throes of the pandemic. We were like, hey, let's do an old school telethon. Like you used to watch back in the day, you had Lou Rawls, and I don't know, forgot some of the other folks that were on there. Had all these celebrities and stuff like that. Good old Lou Rawls. But
Wow.
yeah, and so they would raise a bunch of money. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And we were like, we can't be in person, but we had back then we used Zoom, right? And so it would be cool for us to display all the dope people in our network to see how we've impacted them. And also back then it was 12 hours. 12 hours. So we did 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. EST. And it was also a challenge for me to see if I could actually stay up here and talk for 12 straight hours. And it was a mental thing, right? It was definitely mentally taxing. I think of the 12 hours, I moderated 11 of them. So around, I think it was 1 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 2, I got a break. And then from 2 to 8, I closed it out with the help of the team as well, right? But it was definitely tough. It took me like 2 or 3 days to recover, but it was always super rewarding. And from time to time, I will go back and look at those recordings and kind of, see some of the faces, the stories and things of that nature. Some of these entrepreneurs have moved on to other startups, which is great, but some of them are rocking and rolling. And so it's always a treat to be around dope people like yourself and other folks on the team. So I'm looking forward to another day of doing so.
Amazing. Whew, 12 hours.
Well, how do you feel?
You know what? I put on my yellow Power Ranger shirt today for this streamathon, and you have been inspiring us, I think, so much leading through this bizarro time and thinking about imagination, right? Like not just, oh no, how are we going to react or how are we going to, sustain or persevere? It's been about how can we imagine what we want next year, all the years, following to look like. And I think that type of thinking is really making me like excited about even the challenges. And so I was like, yeah, when I was 5, I wanted to be the yellow Power Ranger, and there's nothing that you could do to tell me that wasn't possible. So I'm bringing a lot of that energy to the streamathon today. There is nothing that we collectively as ecosystem builders, leaders, founders, community folks, marketers, all of us like cannot collectively imagine and do. So yes, I'm here for it. Not for 12 hours, but for the hours we're together, I am so here for it.
There it is. There it is. Okay, so let's get right into it. Just before we bring up the first crew and give you a peek behind the scenes of Goodie Nation, here's how it works. So feel free to drop a chat or something drop something in chat or the comments. So we're multi-streaming in the webinar across LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and more. So please feel free to drop a chat or something in chat or a comment. It could be a question as well. We'll try to get to it. Let us know you're there, kind of check in. Again, if you want to leave any type of thought, drop in the comments or chat or something to that effect, right? 2, please follow us on YouTube. Please follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram and Threads as well, as we are no longer on that other platform formerly called Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook. So that's about it. So let's go ahead and bring up the first set of dope folks to the stage. And I want to kind of cue it up a little bit in terms of, how we arrived to working with this dope set of folks. And then let them kind of do their thing, right? So a few months ago, or about 6 months ago now, we brought on some new board members to Goodie Nation. One is Jeff Hillenmeyer. And just for context, so Jeff does a number of things, but 10 years ago, the same time that Goodie Nation was started, he started 48 in 48, right? So 48 and 48 and hopefully Jeff, if you're watching, I'm not totally messing this up, but 48 and 48 is a marketing hackathon. So their goal is to build 48 or redesigned 48 websites for nonprofits in 48 hours. Right. So that's on the marketing side, the website side. So how Goodie Nation started out was more so as Goodie Hack, a hackathon to build internal technology products for nonprofits. Right. And so I've been a big fan of Jeff over the years. I think we think very similar. We probably are the same person in different skin, quite honestly. And so when there he is. So Jeff is watching. And so when he came on board, so one of the first things we want to do, we want to kind of reimagine, again, no pun intended, some things that we're focused on for next year and storytelling and stuff like that. He's like, oh, I got the perfect set of folks for you. This team called Tenant. And so he connected us, and it's been an absolute joy to work with this amazing group of professionals. And I truly mean it when I say professionals. And so Tenant team, first before we kind of get into the question, I want to kick it to you for, your intros, and then we'll kind of go from there.
I'll pass it to you, Nakia.
Yes, Joey, what an amazing intro. I don't even know where to start, but thank you. And shout out to Jeff Hillemeyer, because he is the reason and man behind why we made this connection. And we're just so excited to be here. So I'm Nakia Dolphe, co-founder and chief innovation officer for Tenet. And we are a strategic communications consultancy that is focused on brand storytelling. So we work with companies across the innovation and social impact economies. And we have been honored to have the opportunity to really work with Joey and the Goodie Nation team on unpacking what this next vision, the next sort of 5-10 years looks like. Goodie Nation's been around over a decade now, and we've really, have been excited and thrilled to come in and really reshape what that looks like. So I'll pass it over to my compadre, Akate.
Hello, everyone. I'm Akate Kern, CEO and a co-founder of Tenet. And Joey and Casey, you have no idea how grateful we are that we were able to work on this project with you, because it really did stretch our imagination and got us to be able to see what your vision is for the next few years for the organization, and really position this organization in a way that is going to be long-standing. And I think that was some of the things that we thought about as we were kind of crafting this brand narrative and really coming up with this campaign. So all great things working with you, and just really proud of the work that we were able to do together.
Awesome. So just for context, everyone watching, the segments today, and there are other things we couldn't include today because only 4 hours. The segments today. So United States of Good, Grind to Greatness, The Plug, Invest in the Hustle. They all came from the Tenet team. So I love to kick it. I don't know who's going to take this. So let's go, take us behind the scenes into how you all kind of came up with some of these concepts, your vision for them, all those type of things.
Yeah, absolutely, Joey. So I think what's important to kind of really unpack is that the whole sort of premise around why Goodie Nation exists is because of this sort of hip hop sort of ethos. And I think when we first initially had these conversations, we wanted that North Star to really reflect that, right? So we wanted to keep the narrative real. We wanted to keep it relatable and culturally rich. So again, thinking the essence of hip hop meets innovation hustle. And so keeping that in mind, we also wanted to keep 3 additional things in mind around thinking behind the brand narrative, and just based on our research, again, what's going on within the world today. Goodie Nation's core mission is to close the relationship gap for underrepresented innovators. We wanted to make sure that still echoed throughout the narrative that we created. And then really second, talking about Goodie Nation's brand evolution, aligning the narrative with more of a modern, impactful voice that really, resonates with your community partners and who you collaborate with. And then 3, making sure that the narrative is movement driven, right? Like Goodie Nation is more than resources and connections. It's about really creating a cultural and community-driven change. And also throughout the messaging, we wanted to make sure it was important to highlight some really incredible milestones that Goodie Nation has been able to achieve, such as increasing the founder's social capital to $75 million. I mean, that's incredible. And we really wanted to showcase how that legacy and impact are intertwined. So, when we thought about this, it was about creating and celebrating resilience, celebrating grit, and really those pivotal relationships that can make or break success, especially for founders. And so that relationship gap obviously was still sort of the core of our thinking as we started to talk through this and really work through the narrative. And then when we think about the key audiences and the dope people a part of the ecosystem, we're talking about the founders, right? They're the heart of this movement. They're the ones driving the innovation. We really wanted the messaging to reflect that we see your hustle, you got the vision, and we got the network to really make this happen, and where Goodie Nation kind of stands in that. We talked about on the expert leaders, mentors that are behind the scenes superheroes. The plugs, if you will. I know, Joey, you mentioned that earlier, but mentors are the plugs who connect founders to the opportunities that they need to scale. And so we really wanted this to echo throughout the messaging and saying that, these expert leaders are more than just mentors. They are the plug. Their wisdom, their connections can really change the game for someone really trying to break into the innovation space. And then you think about corporate partners, the people representing the organizations that bring the resources and platform to amplify the work that Goodie Nation is doing. So, the involvement is more not just about the money. It's about shifting the culture of industries and really helping diverse innovators succeed and scale. And then finally, also as part of our messaging is really thinking about those aspiring angel investors. And Joe, you mentioned, the cohort that you have a part of, the equity wings, and really those individuals who are really ready to back these underrepresented founders financially to make that lasting impact while doing so. And so, we know that funding is often the biggest barrier for underrepresented innovators and founders. So we wanted to have messaging that really speaks to these angel investors being critical to breaking down that wall and getting capital into the right hands and what that looks like for the future. And so, each of these audiences play a unique role in this ecosystem that Goodie Nation is building. And we really wanted the messaging and the marketing strategy to reflect that, as well as the campaigns. Of note, one of campaigns that we had the opportunity to work on is the Imagine That, and I'm going to pass that over to my compadre again, Akate, to talk through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, if you're thinking about Imagine That, that was when Nas, and if everyone knows Nas Nasir Jones, penned that hit in 1996. Of course, If I Rule the World. So imagine that. And he actually spoke about, scenarios big and small that, we could only dream about. So when we're thinking about this campaign, it was really important, for us to just think about, what is this really going to look like? How are we going to roll this out? How are we going to think about this as it aligns with the Goodie Nation's mission? And when you think about the mission and then weaving in that brand narrative, it became very clear to us that, we can build out a lot of great content types that it really is going to amplify this message. So we think about one of the first things that we actually implemented was a manifesto. We wanted to make sure that we had a foundational piece that really is going to speak to the different, audiences that we're actually trying to reach, and really make sure that the content that we're creating was going to really resonate. So as we think about, that pivotal moment in time, like Nas is probably one of the most important hip hop lyricists of our time. And when he was talking about, what the world is going to look like, present day, what is that going to look like for Goodie Nation? What is that going to look like for these entrepreneurs? What is it going to look like for the innovators that are innovating these amazing things, within across various industries? And then also, what are these partnerships going to look like? What can we imagine from the Googles of the world, from some of these great tech companies that are pouring into, Goodie Nation's ecosystem? So it was a pleasure to really work on something that really resonated with us, because we feel like we're a part of the ecosystem of Goodie Nation as well. And being able to play that out and being able to roll out this campaign starting in 2025 is something that we were really excited about. So we can't wait for all of you to really see this really come to life. And I hope that you're excited about, what's to come for 2025.
Awesome. So just know I'm about to come back to you all for what you're super excited. Like I know you all like everything, right? You want to recommend it, but there's like, what was your favorite? I'm going to come back to you in a second. So if you all haven't kind of put some of the pieces together, moving forward in 2025, the way that Goodie Nation is moving is more community building work, right? So more community building work. So if you think that like 95% of our work over the past 4 to 5 years has been focused on supporting founders, particularly founders that are coming out of accelerators, I think that type of work is going to be 50 to 60% of our work in 2025, and it's going to be more community building, right? So in Atlanta, and you'll hear from these folks in a few minutes, we have our Atlanta Black Tech program as a community building program. So we're going to take that framework and start to implement it across the country. I can share, like, so Tenant Team, I can share, like, one of the things I'm super excited about is one the concept around doing these, I'm going to label them ideation labs around the country, like a multi-city tour. And the reason why is that's one of the core things that Goodie Nation did really like pre-2019, so 2014 to 2019. I alluded to how we did these hackathons for good, right? But we also had a series called Goodie Ideation, where we help people come up with ideas, particularly around tech products that will help out communities, but it can be other things as well, right? So these were anywhere between 2 to 4 hour labs, typically on a Saturday, high energy, lots of Post-it notes, lots of hope, lots of excitement, and a lot of just amazing ideas. And I think we could, kind of bring that back and then go across the country to cities like LA, Chicago, New York, DC, and Austin, maybe in Miami, and a few cities in between, and have people start to imagine, like you all alluded to, like what you said, imagine, what they want to see as it relates to positive or inclusive innovation in their particular city. So that would be my favorite part of the things you all recommended. And I loved everything, but I do want to kick it to you all. Like, if you had to pick, I know it's like picking like a favorite kid, right? If you had to pick, like what would be, your favorite thing?
Oh, well, I can definitely say, I think when this concept of the United States of Good was birthed, like, I feel like we were having a magical moment during that sort of brainstorm. I have to say that's probably my favorite because it's bold, it's visionary. It really just speaks to everything you just said, Joey, like bringing the idea of imagining a future where innovation is inclusive, diversity drives success, and I think the biggest thing for me is like where collaboration is the currency of progress. I love that. And I think that, that concept specifically speaks to the power of community. It speaks to the power of connecting founders, investors, mentors, everyone that's a part of this ecosystem together to really create a unified innovation ecosystem. And I think, I think the biggest thing, considering that Goodie Nation was sort of founded in Atlanta, I think that idea kind of really aligned where innovation isn't really bound by geography or background, right? Like you're being able to really tell that story beyond bounds of where Goodie Nation's roots exist. And so I think that's probably my favorite, the collective power relationship, social capital. There's just so many avenues where sort of this United States of Good can really exist. And I think that's probably the thing I'm most excited about.
Yeah. Collaboration is the currency of progress is definitely a part of it. Ms. Kern, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's amplifying the mentorship component. I think it's such a, I don't want to say it's undervalued, but the importance of mentorship, being able to get, these entrepreneurs, aligned and paired with, the right mentor, it could really change the narrative for their businesses. and provide opportunities. So when I think about, what Goodie Nation has done really well over the years, and then being able to amplify it with this new brand narrative and, rolling this out, through the campaign, it could really provide an opportunity where we see that community building happen, especially across, the country, where it's not just going to live just here in Atlanta. It's going to be, widespread across the country. And then, we actually talked about going global too, so I think for me, that's one of the most things that I'm really excited about, because what you all do really well is that connection piece and building community. And I really am excited to see that roll out in 2025.
There it is. Well, Casey, any questions yourself?
I'm just curious, like, as far as the process of being sort of looking on the outside, looking at this brand, any brand, and like telling the story from your perspective while also seeing like what it is that the organization does. I love like how you've organized this, how you were able to like parse out the things that Goodie Nation does and say, these are the ways that you can best tell this story about this piece of what you do. My brain doesn't work like that. Could you share just how you sort of do that?
Yeah, so our process is, I don't want to say that it's simple, but it's something that we found to be kind of tried and true. We look at, first of all, macro and micro trends that are happening within an industry of our clients. So we look at, what are things that are happening that are immediate that could affect change? When we were going through putting together the brand narrative and also the campaign, we actually had to think about, like, at that point in time, we're leading up to an election. So think about all the things that were happening leading up to, voting day, in November. We were working on this brand narrative and campaign. So we kept that in mind because we didn't know which way things were going to go. So we really kept that in mind. So looking at those macro and micro trends really help us kind of shape the narrative. And then also we do what you call a SOAR analysis. We look at the strengths, the opportunities, the aspirations, and then look at what results can really look like for an organization. And being able to walk through that with Joey and understanding the business a lot deeper actually helps us get into the thoughts and minds of not just, the visionary behind the brand, but also, the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the partners. We really have to step in their shoes to see, what's meaningful to them, what's important to them. And that actually kind of kicks off the process for us. And then also we had to listen to the Illmatic album to kind of really get into the heart and mind of Nas, because we knew that was important to Joey. And mind you, I love Nas. I listen to his music, but being able to go back and, listen to just kind of where he was during that time and making sure that we're able to weave some of the different components into that campaign was really important. So that's kind of our process. And that's a quick Twitter version of our process.
You're on mute, Casey.
No, I'm just saying, wow. I mean, what the combination of the strategic process and bringing in some arts and culture inspiration, and bringing in the Goodie, like that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Tenet team, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you all. Thanks for everything. And again, we're going to keep on working with you all, and we'll see how this kind of thing kind of plays out moving forward. So truly appreciate you all. We're gonna feel free to hang out or watch or something like that on YouTube or whatever. We're gonna start bringing up the next group of folks to the stage in a second. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much.
So quick thing as we head into the next segment, the mentioned Illmatic, and for me as it relates to I Rule the World, I'm about to date myself because also I think I got these dates correct, right? So I Rule the World come out. This is summer 96. This is also the same summer where I first got introduced to websites at Tuskegee University. So again, I'm at Tuskegee University. This is the summer going into my senior year of high school. Professor there teaching me how to build websites. This is how I get into tech, right? And because we're on a college campus, you know what young people do, especially back then, they're rolling around, they're bumping stuff in their cars. People are guys trying to impress girl, stuff like that. You know what it is, and try to impress other dudes and just playing music incessantly. This song was on repeat over and over and over again. And I loved it, right? And again, I think I got the timeline right. But, I love this song, and it really just stuck with me. And so, as, this year wore on, you kind of started to see more of these DEI headwinds. One of the things I wanted to do is say, like, hey, like, you know what? Well, one, every year, the theme for Goodie Nation is based off some type of hip hop song. Again, going back to our roots being inspired by Goodie Mob and stuff like that. And I just went to and by the way, anyone ever watching, I have the world's greatest playlist on Spotify. It's called If I Was a DJ, is absolutely the greatest one. And so I went back to that. I started listening. I'm like, oh, this is it. Right. And so what would it look like if we gave everybody the power to imagine the world around inclusive or positive innovation that they want to see, and give everyone kind of that platform, and then take some of those ideas to make it happen. And so one of those ideas is United States of Good, as we start to kind of call it the next group of folks, right? The next group of folks. So this one is going to be split into like a few different parts, because we have an hour for this particular segment. And so this is near and dear to me as a connector myself, as a community builder. And so again, what I alluded to, or what I said earlier, is that for the past 4 to 5 years, Goodie Nation has primarily overwhelmingly been like a post accelerator for diverse-led startups and social entrepreneurs. And that will continue, but we're going to put more resources behind this community building concept. And the way I see this thing kind of playing out is a series of programs in sub-communities based on city, identity, or industry. And they all can somewhat govern themselves, almost like a state. And then Goodie Nation is almost like the federal government. We have a common set of rules and like a manifesto and a constitution and values and stuff like that. But we want to start to dig deeper, right? I think that's the way the world is going to moving forward for a number of different reasons I'm not going to get into right now. But we have had some success. And so this year we've done a few different things. One, with the support of UNCF and KPOR Center, we put more efforts around this Atlanta Black Tech program. Also, a few months ago, we went on a tour to do dinners in LA with Google for Startups, in Chicago with Google for Startups, a series of events where we have clusters of innovators, not only founders, but investors and people that work in corporate America in the innovation space. And actually, next week we'll be in New York for the same dinner as well. And then also, again, given the shifts in the country and headwinds against DEI in particular, we want to put more resources in supporting women in the innovation space. So we're launching a new project called Queens of Innovation, which involves some storytelling around support and stuff like that for the women in the Goodie Nation community. Right? So we're going to bring up the first group of folks that have been associated with our Atlanta Black Tech program. And then we'll roll them through. Then we'll get to Chicago and LA folks, and then we'll conclude with one of our board members there. So I'm going to bring to the stage a few different folks that have been a part of the Atlanta Black Tech program this year. And so we got a bunch of dope folks. So we have here Rayshawn, our new program manager for Atlanta Black Tech. We have Sequoia, who's been a dinner host, and then Kylan, who's been a dinner host as well. So we're going to second just do some super quick intros. Want to hear a little bit more about your experiences and your thoughts. And then we also will have Tamay as well, who's been running social media for Atlanta Black Tech. And then we'll kind of just go from there. And then after that, we'll bring up the LA and Chicago folks and things like that. Right. So first off, I want to kick it to the folks on the Goodie Nation team, Rayshawn and Tamay, for you all's intro. Rayshawn, want to go first?
Oh yeah, no problem at all. I guess where do I start? Well, I can't really tell who's on the call, but one, Joey, thank you for having me come on today and speak. For those who do not know me, Rayshawn Pilote, originally from Savannah, Georgia, been living in Atlanta. I think it'll be going on 9 years in coming up in January. So been a great time here. Actually started off as a forensic scientist, worked for Quest Diagnostics for a couple of years, but there was something about working in a laboratory with no windows that just didn't really sit right with me. And so just started working on my exit. And so I got involved with Goodie Nation, I want to say in about 2017, when I went through one of their accelerator programs where we created this two-sided marketplace where we resold educational technology. So got a little bit of funding. It was successful for a little while, and then we ended up closing it down once the pandemic hit. And all in that same breath, I joined the Venture Capital Fellowship, where I went through HBCU VC, where I started learning about venture capital and investing in early stage companies. And so upon exiting that program, ended up starting 1888 Ventures with 3 others, and we began syndicating deals. And so to this day, we've done 5, and we'll be closing our 6th one actually next week. So again, excited to be here to talk a little bit more about Atlanta Black Tech and just share some of my visions that I have for ABT going into 2025.
There it is. Tamay, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Tamay Shannon. I do the social for Atlanta Black Tech, and I've been doing social since it was the Facebook, like in the early 2000s. And so what I really love about being here and what we're going to get into today is really how do we create community and how do we shape that on the ground level in a way that's really impactful. So I'm really excited at the stuff that we're doing at Atlanta Black Tech.
Awesome. Sequoia, I want to kick it over to you.
Hey y'all, I'm Sequoia. I go by Data Bay. I am the founder and principal of 924 Cooperative. We are a culture first and data rich organization specializing in research and strategy within the marketing technology sector. I'm a proud dinner host. I feel like I need a line jacket for that. I got hazed real nice this quarter, although we are not a hazing organization. But seriously, it's been a pleasure bringing all the shenanigans to ABT and bringing a little bit of that marketing flair to the team. So super happy to be here and super happy to give back on this Tuesday.
Awesome. And Kylan.
Oh yeah. Hi everybody. My name is Kylan Tester. I've been Atlanta for almost 10 years, came from Morehouse. After Morehouse, worked for Startup Atlanta for some time. Also worked in consulting and ran a few entrepreneurship programs. But I'm currently supporting the Morehouse Innovation Entrepreneurship Center as the director for student initiatives. Super excited to be here. I've been a part of the Atlanta Black Tech Community Organization since 2019 when I graduated. And also super excited to have been one of the inaugural hosts for the dinners and have been really excited about the community they've been able to bring.
There it is. Okay, so I want to let's focus on the dinners, right? But I want to give a little bit of context behind Atlanta Black Tech because this framework is something that we could use for other cities and identities and stuff like that, right? So it's Atlanta Black Tech program, just to make sure it's pretty obvious. Atlanta, it's Black people in tech, and so on and so forth. But again, we can't use this framework, and so there's a few things that we do, right? A few things that we do, and we'll go into a little bit deeper. One, every January we do State of the Atlanta Black Tech Ecosystem Summit. It's a way for leaders of different programs across K-12, across startups and investing, across tech workforce to share their vision for the year, objectives and goals and stuff like that. We're really big on leadership at Goodie Nation, and we want to make sure that other leaders that are running their own programs and sub communities have a plan. Right? It's almost like a community board meeting, quite honestly. Earlier this year in February, we launched this monthly dinner series. And so this is decentralized dinners, right? So that means that we have these amazing hosts like Sequoia and Kyla who have volunteered to organize dinners of anywhere between 6 to 10 people every first Thursday of the month. Everyone pays for their own meals. And we try to do it at a restaurant owned by somebody that's Black, right? And so these are ways for people across all facets of the tech community within Atlanta to have dinner together, to build relationships and more. We also have mapped the Atlanta Black Tech ecosystem. We do some happy hours and things of that nature. And so on the social media side, which Tamay will talk about shortly, we also feature people pretty much every week, right? And so without going into too much detail, I want to start with the dinner host. And Sequoia, you had a bunch of energy, so I want to start with you. Can you share a little bit more about your experience as a dinner host? What happened there? Why you're excited? Maybe even Are there any kind of impact stories or successes, or how did it impact you as a human being?
Yeah, I love to eat, y'all. Now, y'all can see my face. I got a little bit of a double chin, so y'all know I like to eat. So I love to eat, and I love to eat with people because I feel like there's 3 universal currencies: love, music, and food. It doesn't matter what language you speak, where you come from, that just feeds the human soul. So for me, I thought this was a very unique opportunity. As far as one of the things I really loved was the financial impact. Myself, I'm a small business owner, and honestly, we talked about this at Black Week in New York a couple months ago, and someone said the real way you can impact my business is to spend money with me. I love mentorship. I love sharing and all that. But at the end of the day, I can't go to Georgia Power and say, hey, I want to pay this bill, buy these intangible things. So when we have our dinner series, it is not only a way for us to connect with each other, but it's also to financially impact one of the hardest industries that was hit during the pandemic, and in Atlanta in particular. So I love learning about new restaurants. For us, we went to 9 Mile. I dined there several times. Never knew they were Black owned until I did research. We went to Bread and Butterfly, did not know it was partially Black owned. So there are a lot of discovery moments for me as a host, but also the guests, and taking other folks' recommendations within the entire DMA so that we have accessible dinners, we learn something new, and then ultimately we respect those businesses by helping them line their pockets so that they can go pay their bills. Amen. So that was one of my favorite parts. Some of the topics, though, that we covered, I'm a researcher, so sometimes we get to thinking like, oh, I know everything, right? So it was really cool talking about politics. We really talked about the intersectionality of Blackness. So you're Black and an immigrant, you're Black and Southern, you're Black and a technologist, and really started peeling back some of the layers. I wish some folks would have took some of our advice, but in all seriousness, we peeled back those layers to understand you're Black. How do we reach you? And the things we don't know about you by what we see. So one young lady, she was Nigerian. She talked about being an immigrant, how voting matters, what education is needed for our immigrant community, and how we can use technology to enhance those marketing messages, to better find audiences and solutions to make sure our voices are heard. So that one was amazing. It was a brand new person, brand new to Atlanta. And she was like, I think I found my people. So for me, it's the food, yes, it's the financial impact, but being able to really hone a community and be just kind of a face of something big and welcome all these transplants in, just like I was welcomed in 7 years ago, that really warmed my heart. And I'm just so excited to see what we do in 2025 and eat some more good food. We did the bougie restaurants this quarter. I might have to do chicken wings and wings and shakes and stuff somewhere else, but it was just so unique, and meeting different people of different backgrounds, different palettes, and really just bonding over the love of this city.
I love it. Did all the bougie ones. I mean, you drop a few bars there. And by the way, Casey, if you have any questions, feel free to hop in. I do want to kick it over to Kylan, because Kylan, you're one of the original hosts, and so let's hear a little bit more about your experiences and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember we started the first dinners back in February, rightfully so, in Black History Month. And it was really exciting to be able to, one, kind of see this community come together. But it was also really great to see how we were able to build it in those spaces. I think one of the best elements of these dinners is that they're informal. So you're not coming in like a work environment per se. But some folks do come to network. Some folks come to just want to get more information about what's happening in the Atlanta Black tech ecosystem. Some folks want to meet new people, professionally or outside of just working in professional. So it was really cool to just be able to see those relationships start to get fostered over this last year. I really enjoyed our topics of conversation. At the dinners, we usually try to guide them with different icebreakers or questions and things like that people can use to be able to break some of the ice. And so like one of the ones we would like to ask a lot of our folks there is like, if you weren't working in tech, what would be the alternate job that you would do? So it's funny, I want this playlist as well, Joey, because my alternate job will be a DJ. So yeah, those types of icebreakers made it really open for us to have conversations, but then we got into deeper conversations as well, talking about the implications of what's happening with DEI right now, and people's perceptions of the type of support that go to specifically Black founders or women founders. And so us having these conversations and being able to see each other's point of view has also been really a learning experience for me as well. And then I've also, because I run a program with students in it, I also been able to invite some of the students at Morehouse, as well as Spelman and Clark Atlanta to enjoy dinner with us as well. And so being able to also bring in new faces to the community, helping connect some of that young talent to really great burgeoning careers and emerging industries that they might not have exposure to has also been really fun to be able to do.
Awesome. No, good stuff. I love the integration of the next generation and being intentional around that. So to May, I want to kick it to you. You have done an amazing job of featuring people, in the community on our social media channels and stuff like that. Can you share a little bit more around that, and also maybe some of your favorites or some of the impact, or maybe some of the people that went viral and things like that?
Yeah, it's been a journey. When I'm looking at spotlighting and highlighting people in our community, I just don't go for the people who've done huge things and all of that, because what's really important to me is that all facets of the community are represented. Whether you're just newly graduated, whether you're 10 years into your career, whether you're a CEO, startup, whatever it is, I really want to make sure that everybody can see themselves reflected in who is highlighted, who's featured on our platform. And so one of the coolest things that I got to do, one of the first people that was featured was Denise Smith. And I was like, oh, she's doing some really cool things. Let me talk about her. So I sent her an email, said, hey, I want to feature you, put it up there. And the amount of people that came through and talked about, yes, she absolutely deserves this. She, at the end of the day, had over 100 comments. And if I remember correctly, like 9,000 impressions, right? And for me, that was it really just solidified the commitment she had to the community, such that people were like, yes, oh my goodness, she deserves this. And it just went up from there. There was, we had another member who you might have seen around supporting Goodie Nation, Shay Taylor. When I posted about him, he got definitely just a lot of what I saw in the comments of, you've been a pillar of this community. You've been committed to this community. You've been showing up for us. And so I'm glad that somebody sees you for who you are. And that's what I really like about the features, is that people get to see their impact, because people flood the comments saying, yes, you've helped me. You're my mentor. You're my sister friend. And so that's one of the things I love about features that I've seen.
No, I love it. And I absolutely love your thoughts around featuring, the hidden gems, right? The unsung heroes and things of that nature. It's easy to say, oh, we're going to feature people that have a bunch of followers or have this cool job title. And we want to support those folks as well. Yeah. But there are a lot of dope people in the community. And also, I think it does a lot for their personal morale to know that they've been recognized and stuff like that. So Rashawn, I want to kick it over to you from your experience so far, and then we're going to do a quick lightning round around, what you all want to see moving forward in 2025. I can imagine that, and then we're going to go to our LA, Chicago folks. So Rashawn, kick it over to you.
I'm sorry, you got to repeat the question one more time for me.
Sorry, yeah, just want to talk about your experience so far. And just for context, Rashawn just started with us about 60 days ago, but then it's been part of the community for a while. But any you perhaps we want to talk about your experience at the happy hour, how you organize that, the leading the ecosystem partner meetings for the last one, just your observations and or things like that.
Oh, no, absolutely. So yes, so my experience thus far within the 60 days of just starting, it's been great so far. I've been able to, so really and truly, these past 2 months, I've actually just been connecting with a lot of the ecosystem partners, and then just individuals within the Atlanta Black Tech community. But then also too, I've been connecting with the dinner host as well, and I just wanted to just get a true understanding of essentially what's working. What more would you like to see? And it's just been amazing so far, just to connect with everyone, just to see just their personal visions of the organizations that they're working with, and the value that they're trying to bring to the community. And then with the happy hour that we just put together at it's actually a friend of mine's spot called One Street Over, another Black owned restaurant. To be able to bring the community there for us to come together and just kind of talk about and just, pretty much debrief on, the feelings that everyone has, post election. It just been very impactful just to hear those things. And then, talk about, the path forward to, uncovering resources. And then, just marching into 2025.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so quick lightning round. Again, imagine that, right? Sequoia, I'm gonna start with you. We're gonna go same order. Sequoia, Kylan, Tomei, and then Rashawn. Again, and Tomei, Casey, if there's anything else you want to add. But Sequoia, what do you want to see? Again, if you can imagine, right? Imagine, and there's no limits, right? There's no budgetary limits or anything like that. What do you as it relates to the Atlanta Black Tech community for 2025, or what do you want to see done and or accomplished? What do you how do you imagine?
I want to take a trip. So there, because you said it's no budget. All right. So for me, there's three places I really want to go and check out their tech scene: Nigeria, India, and China. Nigeria being number one. I would love to take a trip, maybe with the most highly engaged people for ABT or scholarship. I don't know. But I would love to take a trip to learn from other countries' tech ecosystems. I do believe we influence everything because Atlanta influences everything. Shout out to BAM. But I do think there are countries, nations that are doing things either like a little bit ahead of us or different that we can learn from, but then we can also give back. So for me, a traveling tour with food, music. I don't know about the love, y'all. Y'all doing too much at these conferences, these tech conferences for me. But all seriousness, I would love to just Atlanta to the world and go to a different place. Shout out to Nigeria and just learn from them and infuse their culture with a little ATL.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Atlanta to the world. Atlanta to the world.
I'm just saying, Delta, if y'all want to sponsor the trip.
Yeah, as I'm saying, we got Delta. Yeah, if somebody at Delta I know is watching indoor, we can Jack, I'm going to call you out there and a few other folks as well over there over at Delta. Okay. Kylan, what about you?
Yeah, I'm super excited about Sequoia's idea. I think that's definitely a build on to some of the things I'm thinking we should also consider. I love, I just recently went to Afrotech and, I know they had some programming and things like that focused around that, but I would love for us to have more of a presence in the tech conferences and things that are happening in our national ecosystem as well. I think that would be really interesting to just be able to have that ATL Black Tech community presence in different spaces like in Afrotech or Startup Week DC or Startup Week New York, to the point that you're already doing with some of the happy hours, but doing that same idea or concept with the dinners. In addition to that, I think the themes were really awesome and exciting. I know we had one this year just focused on politics, but as we start thinking about what our agenda is as a Black community, I think it's really important to be able to share these different points of views and perspectives at tables like these. And so would love to create more platforms like that as well. And lastly, I think that, it would be really cool to be able to, I don't know, I love the idea of what Atlanta Black Tech represents. And so just like, how do we create a model or something like that that we can showcase for other communities to be able to build as well?
Super dope. Super dope. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, y'all come with the fire early in the morning, right? These ideas to make a little bit of pressure on you, but any ideas? Any ideas on your end?
Yeah, for me, if money's no budget, I would love to have an ABT co-working living type space where that if you're in the community, you can show up and have people around you. So if you're working through a problem, if you got a question how to navigate something at work, or if you just want to chill and be with people that got you, that there's a physical space that you can show up to so that you don't feel alone, that you are in community, and that those serendipitous moments where you can't plan the magic, but the magic happens, that happens in a space where everybody can see it and participate.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Co-working space, living space. Okay, y'all come with the ideas. And Sean, what about you?
Listen, Tomei literally just took the words like exactly out of my mouth from the from the serendipitous moments of being at a space, because ultimately we do need that central place, right? We need to have the Gooders working in one spot. We need to have like the Maivanas working in one spot. So so that as they're working on their products together, we have other entrepreneurs within the ecosystem. They too can rather blend their resources, provide sales knowledge and sales consulting. things of that nature. Another thing that I really, really want to see going into 2025, I really want us, and this has nothing to do with a budget, but I want us to really just tap into our power, going into 2025. I listened to John Hope Bryant speak a couple of years ago, and I remember him saying something very specific. He said that one, as Black people, we need to heal, but then also two, something that really, really stuck with me was the cavalry isn't coming. And so, and I understood it when the moment he said it. When he said the cavalry isn't coming, meaning that we have to save ourselves. I know we sit around, I know we look for leadership, and in reality we do need leadership, but I want us to be able to uncover those resources, and that's what Atlanta Black Tech is going to serve for. We're going to make those resources visible, but not only are the resources going to be visible, we want to be able to show what the path forward to unlocking those resources looks like. And so that's my vision for 2025.
Nah, super dope, super dope. Awesome. Y'all have some really cool ideas before we kind of wrap up and then go to the LA, Chicago folks. Casey, anything you want to add?
I just have a quick, I've had the honor of attending an ABT dinner. And even though I've been like around y'all tech folk for a minute, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, oh no, am I going to say the right things or do the right things? So for anyone else who might be watching this and thinking, okay, maybe next year is going to be my year, but like, I don't know. What like words of encouragement would you have for the person who's like, I want to jump in, but I'm a little bit nervous?
I'll jump in. I'll say one, just show up. I think a lot of the times you'd be surprised at the people that you meet. And there are people from all walks, not just tech, that end up there. Some folks who worked in tech and don't work in tech anymore and vice versa. So don't feel intimidated by that. And then also just take advantage of the fact that we have tons of different options. There are 7 to 10 dinner hosts at any given night. And all of the dinners are at different locations. So you can pick somewhere that might be more familiar to you if that helps you feel more comfortable. Or you can also see what the guest lists look like. And if you want to opt in for a dinner that might be smaller, you have that flexibility as well. So definitely take advantage of that.
Dope.
Great advice.
Dope.
Yes.
Dope. Cool. Well, Sequoia, Kylan, Tomei, Rashawn, super excited. One, just thank you. So excited for the ideas, and maybe we'll try our best to make a version of these happen in some way, shape, or form, almost like an MVP. Thank you all for coming on and imagining the future and talking about your work this year. We'll be in contact soon. We're going to bring up the next set of guests to the stage. So appreciate y'all. Peace out. Cool. So y'all, what y'all just heard was the stories of the folks involved with our Atlanta Black Tech program. And so again, we started this work, generally speaking, instead like around 2017. And so, in Atlanta, where we have our HQ, but we're starting to do more stuff in other cities outside of Atlanta. And so want to bring the next crew to the stage to talk about their experience with some dinners that we've had this year. So earlier this year, and again, we're going to do one in New York next week. We've had the pleasure of working with Google for Startups on a dinner series featuring founders, VCs, and other innovators in the space, particularly talking around the future of AI. And so we went out to LA for their tech week and had an amazing dinner at Catch. And then we also went to Chicago to have a dinner at this amazing condo, quite honestly. And so Camille, I actually want to start with you. Then we're going to go to Amaya after that. So actually, let's do some intros. We'll do Camille and then Amaya, and then we'll go back around with a question. So Camille, if you want to do a quick intro.
Of course. Hey, everyone. My name is Camille. I'm based in Chicago, Illinois. I am a proud Google Fund and Goodie Nation recipient of 2022. I am the founder of Vodium, which stands for Virtual Podium. It is a desktop teleprompter app that I'm currently using right now for my intro. So in my career before starting Vodium, I created TV commercials for political campaigns here in the United States. So if any of you are familiar with any of the ads and commercials that you were targeted this past election, that's what I did. But in 2020, just like everyone else, I had a huge problem because all of my commercials were pivoted behind our computer and on video. So I had a problem. I looked into it and there was no solution. So this is why I created Vodium, and it is a desktop teleprompter that sits on top of any open windows, and it's transparent so you can see who or what's behind the screen. We fundraised through an angel investor. We received 1.75 million, and we obviously received our grant from Google for Startups and Goodie Nations. And we are currently and strategically looking for a force multiplier while maintaining a slow growth model on a minimal spend. And that's my intro.
Awesome. Amaya, what about you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Amaya from LA. I like to say I'm an overall ecosystem builder. I've been in tech for the last 10 years in so many different capacities. Most recently as a venture capitalist with Backstage Capital. I helped invest in over 124 early stage startups all over the world. I was a director of a couple accelerators here in LA. I'm a limited partner in a fintech fund called Inclusive Fintech for ex-Techstars managing director, Ethan. And I am an angel investor and pitch coach. Right now, I'm running entrepreneurship programming and funding at USC, which is the country's oldest entrepreneurship center. So I'm really excited to be here and love talking about Goodie Nation.
There it is. Let's get it. So Camille, I'm gonna start with you chronologically. We're gonna go backward, right?
Yeah.
So we have a presence of founders and some VCs and some good folks in Chicago. Goodie Nation had never to that point in time come and done anything. I got some cousins up there. So quick background, my original startup, Chicago was our largest market. And so I got a lot of love for Chicago. And so want to share, I would like for you to kind of share a little bit more about your experience at the dinner, what it meant to you and stuff like that.
Well, the dinner meant a lot. And I want to give just some background of my family. My mom moved to Chicago from Durango, Mexico when she was 10 years old. And my dad comes from a multi-generational Mexican American background as well. But Chicago is very close to us because that is the city where my parents met. So being in Chicago, it's such an honor to be a part of this growing tech community. But I grew up most of my life in Chicago, but right after I graduated from college, I moved to Washington, D.C. I moved to Los Angeles. I lived in West Hollywood. And then I also dabbled with Nashville. And the pandemic just really made my constant hustling and entrepreneurial ambition slow down and be really, really still. So for Goodie Nation to create a dinner that brings founders of diverse backgrounds together in an intimate setting helps a Latina founder like me, because I'm not doing my startup traditionally. I feel like, from the get-go, starting Vodium and being non-technical founders, we've always been at a disadvantage. And so Goodie Nation showing up, affirming these founders, letting them know that they are still special and they deserve to be treated like queens. I like that. Let's talk more about that. It gave me a new momentum. So in another time, I'd love to talk about the resiliency of our company and how we still maintain our funding. And we're about to be in the green in 3 months. Latina founders, small growth founders, female founders, they deserve to be at the startup dinner tables. And you allowed me to feel the energy I needed to continue to keep Vodium going. So thank you. That's my speech.
No, there it is. I mean, it was a dope dinner, right? And so shout out to
the lamb chops. The lamb chops. I'm gonna drop the video that I created via LinkedIn, and you will literally see me eating the lamb chops.
There it is. There. So we're gonna come to you in a second, Amaya. So in this case, though, we had a custom. So again, shout out to Anisia Williams and stuff like that for producing. And so in this case, we brought in personal chefs to create the meal. It was almost like a Thanksgiving like dinner and stuff like that, right? So we brought in so some Black chefs able to put really money in everyone's pockets and stuff like that. Super dope condo space in off was it Michigan Avenue.
It was like right off Michigan Avenue. It's right off the river. I mean, you can kind of see, sorry for the trauma in this word, but you can see the Trump Tower, the Chicago Tribune Tower, University of Chicago put their business school down there. It's like, it's very sexy. I was like, okay. Made me feel very, very seen and special.
It was dope. And people, sat down. Everyone was kind of, there were several kind of places to eat at, and people were around a table and stuff like that. It was dope. It was like you were kind of pseudo in a kitchen and stuff. Well, you actually were in the kitchen.
Yeah. The setup was in the kitchen. It was very beautiful, very well done. I mean, all the founders there, they all range in where they are in their businesses. And then you also had people, actual employees of Google, come to the dinner. And then Joey, I'm forgetting his name right now, but you invited a very well-known Black founder in the Midwest, and he attended the dinner. I believe that was his building. Is that who you shout out?
Oh, yeah. I know you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, he was so special. You brought people that could also be thought partners through a dinner, and they felt engaged because they were getting fed well, they were getting drinks, and you brought a very eclectic group, which is also very special. And ever since the beginning, joining Goodie Nation, because I was not technical, I don't know if this was on purpose, but you all put me in a group with all technical dudes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to go to 101 boot camp of how to be a tech founder. So the conversations are instrumental. So invite me next year, okay?
We're gonna do more. We're gonna talk about what you want to see and stuff like that. I want to kick it over to Amaya. So Amaya, you mentioned beginning West Hollywood, Camille. We were again. I've been to LA in like 20 years, so I believe that was West Hollywood. Or
you went to Catch?
Yeah,
Catch.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So
good for you. Good for you.
Amaya, you want to share a little more around your experience?
Yes, honestly, I want to really highlight what Camille said of rising to the occasion of the ecosystem. I'm not going to lie, being in venture capital, being in tech, everything is kind of fancy. Now that I'm working at USC and I'm explaining my experience of my career to my students, I'm like, you know what? Tech is already fancy in LA, I think brings up the level of just coolness because of our location and our geography. So when Goodie Nation wanted to implant their event during LA Tech Week, it was huge. It was very important to me. There were over 800 events. I hosted literally 5 different events, and I don't even know how many events I went to, but I had to make sure I went to the Goodie Nation dinner. Not only because it was at Catch, because, fancy, gotta eat, gotta get that good food, but really bringing together a group of inclusive ecosystem members is, I don't want to say difficult in LA, but you do have to be a very intentional event host. One, because everybody always hates that we're late to every event because LA, we got our own vibe, and event producers want to come and make us be on time, and that's not how we roll. But 2, just really, I always say I never go somewhere in LA that I don't know the people. And I love the event because it was a half and half. I knew half of the people, and half of the people were completely new to me, which I was just like, this never happens. And I got a chance to talk to these different movers and shakers about not just Black and brown founders in AI, but I think we really captured the barriers to entry for AI for Black and brown founders, the knowledge gaps of the different tools that are available, sometimes even the language barriers of speaking into your AI thing and it don't even understand you, or the behavior awareness. A lot of Black and brown founders and just Black and brown people really believe using AI is kind of like cheating. So, really thinking about how are we talking about this? We are quote unquote the smartest, most inclusive mover and shakers in the tech ecosystem in LA. And to bring this event during this wonderful, like, huge event across LA was really helping to move the needle forward, just by one, bringing us together, but really having an institutional backbone, because that is something that we cannot move forward if we don't have all of the stakeholders in place. There wasn't just VCs at the event. There wasn't just founders at the event. There wasn't just Google employees at the event. There are all these different stakeholders, because when you have clusters of innovation talking with each other, encourage each other, and at the end of the day, funding each other, that is really where the magic happens. So I was super, super excited and honored to be at the table with Goodie Nation. And I love that the work that they're doing. And I was like, you know what? Again, Camille, sign me up for the next dinner.
Ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
Never.
Well, let's talk about the future, and then I want to kick it to you, and also Casey, feel free to jump in, right? So, I think there are some rumblings of what does it look like to do a LA chapter of Goodie Nation, and so that's kind of, and I didn't bring it up, right? Well, actually, maybe I kind of did, right? And then people kind of took it from there, and so we think about this United States of Good concept. One thing we're kind of playing around with is doing city-based chapters of Goodie Nation to be able to host, dinners like that, to eventually do some of the things that Atlanta Black Tech program is. I mean, think about it to where, what if we had people that were hosting their own dinners across LA, across the whole metro area, which I know, my understanding at least, is geography does play a big role. And again, and I want to double down on a few of the things you brought up. I was super appreciative that throughout LA Tech Week and all those hundreds of events and how big LA is, super dope people took time out of their week to spend time with us. And there was like 42 people in attendance, and to your point, super powerful crowd, right? So if you want to imagine that for next year, what would you like to see maybe for Goodie Nation to do? Again, the crew of folks in LA, founders, VCs, corporate tech folks, people running programs, all that type of stuff.
Woo, I actually haven't thought about that. And I love this because I say to my students, I like to think on the spot. So really the first thing that came to my mind was a whole day, quite frankly, or just even more embeddedness, because I'm from South Central LA. Well, I'm from Inglewood. I'm around South Central LA. I'll be around LA. I'm from a foster youth, and really the Black and brown founders had basically 10% knowledge of LA Tech Week, an event with over 800 events all throughout LA, not just in one place. And every time I saw a Black and brown founder, I spoke about it, and they came and they got money from the event. I'm like, whoa, that is just me talking, right? And so how can we really cluster all of that energy? I think really there's no real space for Black and brown founders in this ecosystem. We go to LA is more activity based and interest based. So I like to say, once you know that, you'll find the people who you want to be around who do that activity and that interest. But at the same time, it's still spread out. And I think just having a concentration of things where the Black and brown founders know to go to this, much like the VC firms that fund Black and brown founders, and all the Black and brown founders know to go to them first. I think having that knowledge base and community base would be really interesting for us.
I love it. I love it. And Camille, I want to come to you. Like, what would you like to see, more of in Chicago? What could Goodie Nation do? Again, imagine that there's no budget, there's no constraints, anything.
I love it. Okay, well, I'll piggyback off Amaya and also say if you need any help in the Chicagoland area, I would love to be a part of planning dinner parties. I love a good feng shui and a vibe and a dinner party. And I really loved the experience you put together. I would say like almost like Amaya, not needing of a full day, but knowing I'm such a slow growth model that, I think the next time if you host a dinner in Chicago or anywhere else, I wish I had more time to discuss to the whole group any thoughts or worries or apprehensions I've had or were having at the time. Because one of my favorite things about being a part of Goodie Nation were our weekly conversations that I was able to voice to the technical founders of the group. Here's my worry about Vodium, right? Get that technical thought leadership. Now I'm in a place with Vodium where we are looking for a force multiplier. It's an exit to some degree, but we feel like we are a feature. We want to be a part of a platform. We're exploring so many different ways about that. And because we've concentrated more on our technology and our user base and understanding the market versus having mass growth, the way we're approaching an hopeful exit is going to be just very, very different. And so I discussed with a few people at that dinner about that possibility, and they were super helpful. And I'd be down to get a microphone like during dinner and be like, whoever wants to come up and like discuss what's on their mind, let's have a chat, and then we'll allow for a few minutes of rapport and dialogue. But that whole event is then meant for like those close next step connections. And that's what I would like. I like a good, I'm a wake up in the morning, get a lot of shit done, then take a hard siesta nap, and then I come alive for the nighttime. So if you did like a 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., I feel like 5 hours, you could get a lot of shit done. So I'm just going off of what Amaya was saying, but
yeah. No, I love it. I love it. And we actually did a co-working day just as the pandemic, or a lot of people were kind of coming out of the pandemic. So this is what, 2022, I think it was April 2022. We went to a co-working space, Atlanta Tech Village here in Atlanta, and we did a whole day, right? So people and people worked out of the same space. And just for context, we had a version of that pre-pandemic. We were in there like a month basically, and then pandemic happened. So we could
make every damn founder post on social media somehow, right? Like, because you're going to have to think about, how am I going to actually be able to put on this type of event? Like, are you making founders, is there a price? Maybe you don't want to get there. So yeah, but there needs to be return on your end too. And as founders, like, I posted that LinkedIn post because I wanted the people that I met that night to remember that we talked last night and I was a part of the Goodie Nation event. Like, I am someone that I hope they keep on their radar, like I came in with my big over energy,
I love it. 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 Well, speaking about that, I mean, so one, Amaya, Camille, thank you all. We have one more part of this particular segment. You'll feel free to hang around if you want to. I know you've been waiting backstage for a minute. The next one is the Queens of Innovation. And so one of our
must stay.
There it is. Feel for free, but don't feel pressure. So I want to bring up Caitlin to the stage to talk about this concept. So Caitlin, I want to just super quick. You want to do a quick intro?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Caitlin Ferguson. I'm one of the board members here at Goodie Nation. I'm also a founder of a firm called COO Pilots out of Atlanta.
There it is. Cool. So super quick. So again, with a lot of the DEI headwinds in the last year or two, we've seen funding for a lot of organizations in the inclusive innovation space go away. What I've personally witnessed is that some of our peers or other organizations that are supporting women in the innovation space have been affected greatly, which concerns me, not only in Atlanta, but across the country. For context, we have a few thousand registered members of the Goodie Nation community. Again, founders, investors, corporate professionals, people that are running nonprofits and programs supporting people in tech and innovation. We have another few thousand people that have registered for events, but they're not part of the Goodie Nation community. And it's really about 51% or so women. And so as I started to look at some of those numbers as we were preparing for our Goodie Nation Summit, the Intent to Good Summit last year, I began to think like we need to, or I think there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity for us to create a sub community for the women in the Goodie Nation community. I've always been big on we don't need to replicate other efforts across the country, but for context, we've done some stuff over the years that are focused on women and mothers in particular. So I think Camille, you've been to some founder therapy sessions. We've had founder therapy sessions focused on women founders. We've had founder therapy sessions focused on mom founders. This year in Atlanta, we did an in-person event hosted by Casey, and Casey will love your thoughts on it right quick. Focused on storytelling for women in the innovation space. And so, Caitlin, I'm going to come to you in a second, or we'll pass the mic to you in a second to share your thoughts on it. But Casey, would you like to kind of share some of your thoughts on the event that we had back in May at the Lola?
Absolutely. And even, what we just heard from Camille and like, being a non-technical founder, feeling like not only am I trying to build this thing, but I'm coming in with this barrier, feeling like maybe I don't know as much as my counterparts. Things like that affect women probably, in greater capacity than our male counterparts are like the things that we sometimes feel like we don't want to say out loud. We have to like just go in and like act like we know everything, and having spaces where we can just come and talk and not feel like we have to put on a facade, feeling like we can just be with other folks who are perhaps going through the same thing that we're going through, is why events like the one that we had at the Lola are so important. And I think that having allies, we did have some male allies who were present in the room as well, who were there to hear us and to support and to just be like, whoa, this is something that we should all collectively be aware of. I think is super important as well. And something that I think that you, Joey, like you're just really good at facilitating, and nothing ever feels weird with Goodie Nation events. Everybody's just kind of like, we're clearly here because we want to support each other. And so, yeah, hopefully that's just the start of many more opportunities for women specifically, but for also our male allies to come together and, make this a more inclusive ecosystem for everybody.
There it is. So Caitlin, I mean, so your thoughts, right? What would you like to see? Again, imagine that, right? Imagine that there's no budgetary constraints. There's nothing there. What would you like to see as it relates to supporting women in the innovation space?
It's a great question. I don't know that I thought about the budget-free version, because we've been having some good conversations around how we do this as an organization for next year. So I think I'm still in that headspace. But, we know the power of female founders. We know that their organizations grow faster in terms of revenue, in terms of employee headcount growth, in terms of, overall trajectory. And yet we know they're losing out in the ecosystem in terms of dollars raised. And this is a longstanding problem across all different intersections that women can have with their identities. So, one thing I think we can do to create better community is also to really continue to highlight the power of female-led businesses. There was a study done about how many women tend to go into social impact businesses because they want to see not just the impact on the bottom line, but the impact in their communities. I think that's something we can uniquely honor, and we can also make sure that we're showing the path forward to other founders of, or to female founders of businesses that maybe aren't in the traditional spaces that they were considering. It's not lost on me that I was born before it was lawful for a woman to take out a business loan in the United States without a male cosigner. Like, that happened in my lifetime. And so we have these deficits that we've got to make up for just because we weren't given the same running start. So I think continuing to build supportive community, build these spaces that we can talk candidly with each other, because let's all be real, when you get real founders in a room and everybody can let down, it's a different conversation. And think about how do we just halt some of the more systemic barriers to access to capital, and getting away from this idea that female founders, what they need is mentoring. Like, no, like that's an important part if that's what the founder needs, but let's really dig into what's required and really tear down these barriers.
I love it. Amaya, I saw you pretty excited about one of the comments, especially around social impact. But I mean, I don't know if you want to dig into that more, or generally speaking, if, again, same question around imagining that, right? When it comes to women in the innovation space, what would you love to see more of?
So I love how Caitlin brought up the statistics and the data, because that's really what's going to ground our impact as queens of innovation, honestly. And the one that I like to dig into is the fact that most businesses aren't even making $10,000 a month. And I think that it kind of piggybacks on the social impacts part, but it's a little further down the line. But really, if I were to see impact, like, what are the types of businesses being built? Why? What are the motivations behind that? Because as Caitlin said, is like, is it that you want to change the world? Yes. But is it that we can make money doing the same thing? Or is there a technological aspect that we can really scale so big that you can exit and then make money another way, or make money and do something else impactful with your money? So really knowing the options of what kind of businesses you want to build, and then really staying committed to, and not, I mean, we're all super committed, but like it was said, it's like, it's very lonely. It's scary. You have all these thoughts. Your hormones are raising. I feel like that's something that I've been getting into as, like, I have my master's in industrial and organizational psychology, and I study women founders, and it's like, we have a different vibe than our male counterparts, and we have to honor these changes, because there are going to be times when it calls for our businesses to go up and go down. And I would like to see the businesses go up on a steady pace and less drop off of having to sunset our businesses because we are over supported and underfunded.
Ain't that the truth? And so, Camille, I want to come to you. And same question, right? You can piggyback off a comment, or what would you like to see as it relates to supporting more women in the innovation space?
Well, I'm getting love, Caitlin and Amaya, all of that. I mean, the whole conversation about women leading and being at the table for anything is just an uphill battle, and it always will be. But the piece here is just like what Amaya said, we're over supported but underfunded. What just really comes full circle to me is I've always felt very self-conscious about what people are thinking about me, and I've projected a lot. And the opportunity to quit my full-time TV commercial, political making, high-paying consulting job to then go and work with no pay for about a year and a half and just live off my savings and invest $10K into Vodium to jumpstart the potential to find investment is all testament to me just being someone here in the United States, because but also knowing that my parents worked really, really hard to give me an education to put me in a position where, yes, I know statistically I'm lesser, but when it comes down to the art of business, it takes confidence, communication, information, and coming from an immigrant background and having a lawyer as a dad, my passion mixed in with all that my parents did to provide for their kids to have a better future is just where I feel and trust that women, like Amaya was also saying, have a different vibe when approaching business. I'm very much less egotistical. You know, when I'm saying big ovary energy, I mean it because, you know, growing up, I had family members that would say like big dick energy. I'm like, I don't have that, but I have something else and I want to be just as passionate. And I've realized around the years, whenever I felt insecure, I feel like I was projecting. I've started to realize the craft of business. Whenever I felt someone had a louder voice, but there was no backing to what they were saying, and then I would voice up my opinion, and my voice got louder and louder over years of practice. It's just making me as a woman a more sophisticated business person. And also, to wrap it up, I fundraised 1.75 through an angel investor. There've been a lot of flack because I don't have a VC funding, right? Less clout, less information or backing. But I've also raised 1.75, and over 5 years, we've never gone into the dark, right? And I'm building a foundation. So if we ever do find our growth, then we're going to be very strong. So I just like to wrap it up. I don't want to compete against men. I don't want it to be like that at the end of the day, but it's just what it is. So as a woman and being in politics and understanding how business is politics and communication and marketing, I just want to present myself as a confident, well-informed person who is able to believe that she can run her own business and create her own path versus working for other people, because it really affects my psyche. And also statistically, as a woman, if I ever want a child, it's going to be a lot easier to have a flexible schedule. And right now, our society and our nature is just not like that. So, you know, we're an untapped market.
Yeah. No, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? So awesome stuff.
To something Camille said, and Amelia, you may have actually seen this study. I can't find it again now, but there's actually an article that came out. An academic was looking at how many women are going into entrepreneurship unwillingly because they require the flexibility they can't find in the workplace. And so now they're on the fly trying to figure out how to run a business, grow a business, sell their services, their time, all these things on top of being a caregiver to either kids, parents, or both.
Chills.
Yeah.
Well, that's big. So we gotta do more, right? I'm super excited for this Queen's Innovation. It's gonna start out as a project. So everything in Goodie Nation starts out as a project. A
side project.
So,
Very entrepreneurial.
The current post accelerator program supporting startup. They started out as a project too, right? So we learned, we made some tweaks, and then we kind of made it an institution within our community and stuff. So super excited for what's next. Amaya, Camille, Caitlin, appreciate you all. We're going to be looking to do more around this United States of Good concept. Y'all can go ahead and roll off. We're going to bring in the next crew of folks. But
thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming out. So yeah, this whole United States of Good concept will be we'll be doing more around that moving forward. And so we're going to move on to the next segment called Grind to Greatness. So super excited for these folks. But before we do that, before we bring them to the stage, want to kind of reset the room, so to speak. You know, this is Goodie Nation on Giving Tuesday. If the spirit comes over you, feel free to donate to us by texting Goodie24 to 707070. We're giving you a little bit more insight into the community in terms of some things that we've done this year, but also a peek into the future for Goodie Nation. So let's bring some of these dope folks to the stage. And when I say folks, I mean founders. So again, we have the privilege of working with a lot of dope people in the Goodie Nation community. And as a former founder, I get to ask them, still a founder, former tech startup founder, the founders, don't tell anybody this, have the special place in my heart. And so we got Harry, we got Darren, we got Megan here. And so we're going to focus on the mindset of what it takes, right, to be successful, the mindset about what it takes to be successful, to get through the muck, the tough times. And these are some folks that have been grinding, for a minute. And, I know as entrepreneurs, sometimes we don't think that we're great, but I'm going to give you all a little bit of grace here. I can say from the outside looking into you that you all are great, right? So let's do some quick intros. We'll start with Megan. If you can just say your name of your company, a quick description about the company, and then also where you're checking from in the world.
Yeah. So my name's Megan Nunes. I'm the founder and CEO of Bountiful. Bountiful is an agriculture data analytics company. And we're essentially building an operating system, modernizing how farmers, buyers, and sellers work smarter. And today I am calling in from the Central Valley of California, where I'll be spending the rest of my day with some farmers that I have meetings with.
Super cool. Next up, I want to go to Darren.
Hey, it was good, y'all. Good to see you, Megan. Darren Riley, founder and CEO of Just Air. Just Air is an air quality insights platform, really focused on the intersection of air quality and the health and our well-being and our breathing environment. So our platform is really to make sure that we have democratized data, transparency for our communities to improve better health outcomes that impact our communities the most. And I'm calling in from Detroit.
There it is. And then Harry.
What's up, guys? Harry Wilson, co-founder and CEO of Limitless Minds. We're a B2B enterprise SaaS mental fitness and data insights platform. We really work to democratize access to world-class mental fitness and peak performance coaches from the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, Olympics, World Cups, even the entertainment industry, and built really like a Peloton for mental fitness without the hardware and supply chain challenges that we sell to companies. And our ICP is typically sales teams, frontline salespeople, first-line leaders, typically at these organizations, and then leveraging the data and insights to help organizations be able to be predictive on how they hire talent, how they develop that talent, and how they perform at their greatest. So, awesome. And by the way, I'm calling from Louisville, Kentucky, which is where I live, and not on the road this week, which is nice.
There it is. Actually, here I want to start with you. Yeah. And so the question I'm going to ask to each of you all is around the grind, right? So is there any examples of resilience that you all can share, and perhaps how you got through it? Right, from a mental kind of perspective.
Well, I mean, it's like the requirement for resilience is like it's evergreen, right? I mean, there's so many examples, like both macro and micro, that exist, and in our day to day, we've had to, we've kind of had these, many pivots along the way, and each time it's required us to kind of like, reestablish who we are and what our mission is. For us, honestly, a lot of the resilience required for us has been on the people front, recruiting talent that, can take us to the right place. I mean, I've never been the smartest person in most rooms that I'm in. Right. And so I'm constantly looking for like blue chip talent that can, take our vision and execute on it, and as I'm a visionary, as a CEO and founder, and looking for the right integrators that can take us to the right place. And we've stumbled upon, hiring talent in certain areas. I'm a non-technical founder. That's been the area that we've had the biggest challenges over the kind of the story arc of our organization. And so, there's certainly been times where we built some tech debt along the way. We've had to kind of, scrap through some of that journey to kind of get the product where it is today. And I'll say this, and thinking about this, there's so many kind of tools around peak performance that maybe we can talk about today, but the truth is one of the biggest things is like my self-talk as a founder, in a lonely spot as a founder and a CEO, is like what my internal dialogue is, and what my, what that internal ad campaign that I'm creating for myself, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, et cetera, because it shapes my focus, it shapes the energy, and then that trickles down to my team, right? And so it's not about just being like blindly positive, because as we know, like most of the journey is one where you're in the woods, in the jungle, trying to figure things out. So it's really just trying to be really neutral about where we really are, leveraging the data that we have, the insights that we've gained, and to be really prescriptive on the next steps, right? And so it's your shirt, Joey, says outwork yesterday, right? And that's really what the journey is, right? It's just this aggregate of marginal gains, and that's really helped me with kind of my own like imposter syndrome, which I have, and I don't even know if I love that term. It's kind of probably overused, but I know it's a term that people recognize, and just kind of understanding that we and I are built for this, and just kind of being on a constant quest for knowledge. And so, it is a daily grind. And I think the biggest challenge other than people has been fundraising, and just that journey of fundraising and feeling like, there's no light at the end of the tunnel on it. And then finally you get that win, and then it's the next round, and so on and so forth. And so, that's been tough, because every kind of round of, I raised 2 rounds, but each of those rounds has felt like a whole new journey, and trying to re-educate myself on how to do this work, and so it's hasn't been easy.
I love it. Yeah, that whole internal ad campaign, super interesting. Megan, I want to come to you, right? So same thing, like any stories of resilience, how do you get through it? Stuff like that.
So I've been a startup founder since 2015 is when my company was officially incorporated. And just to be like super specific on examples, like I have gotten the pure joy and gift of getting to fall into product market fit, fall out of product market fit, and have to re-find it. I always usually make a joke that it's either I'm super stubborn or there's some level of resilience in there, or it's both. That was able to get me to basically want to keep going. And for me, what drives a lot of my work and motivation of like why I started Bountiful, why I'm even still doing this today, really stems back to the community of where I'm from. So I grew up in an agricultural, very rural part of California. I'm from a very small town where the whole reason why people live in said town is because of agriculture. It's what allows people to buy homes, whether you work on a farm, whether you own a farm, and so on. And so for me, a lot of like what I'm doing in terms of bringing tech to the ag industry has to do with also being able to support my community in order to ensure that the agriculture industry has opportunity to thrive for a very long time in California. So it is definitely challenging work by all means. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I never suffered with internal dialogue issues and everything else, because you definitely do. But being able to, I think, have such a driving like mission and reason for the work helps you at the end of the day when things do get difficult to figure out paths to keep going. Customers also help a lot. Being able to talk to them is very beneficial as well, for sure. But for me, I would say that's probably the whole like finding product market fit, falling out of it, refinding it, has definitely been one of the greatest battles that have been had for me on my entrepreneurial journey, and where I have needed resilience probably the most. There's all kinds of other tertiary things. Fundraising, of course, is always difficult. That's always hard as well. But without product market fit, it's very difficult to have a business and something that people pay you for, and to be able to build a self-sustaining business on your own that potentially doesn't need VC backing. So that for me I would say was definitely been my greatest challenge.
As you were saying, before I kick it over to Darren, I'm really, I really identify with things you're saying, right? So as it relates to community building, particularly in this space, like community building, like there's no true exit in my mind, right? It's not like you sell the company. I mean, you could sell a community, even though I have a whole other thought around that. And so what you're saying around going in and out of product market fit, I feel like that's what I'm, really currently experiencing. even within the nation, right? So it's sometimes when things go really, really well, times of change right now. And so you're just trying to figure out what's next. And what you said around talking to customers is something that I think a lot of community builders could leverage, right? Because that's the stuff that well, at least for me, it re-energizes, me as well. It kind of brings me back to the center of doing this type stuff. So
it like regrounds the whole reason for like your why in the first place, because it can be easy to get lost in the ideation of like the why, and without the feedback loop from like real people that need real things, there's nothing that kind of can replace that other than conversation with your like key potential users or key customers.
Nah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Darren, I want to kick it to you, right? So again, stories of resilience, how you get through it, stuff like that.
Yeah, word. Yeah, first off, man, just really honor with Megan and Harry was mentioning about, just getting through everything and kind of expressing their vision to their team. So yeah, I think the founder journey is just a story of resilience, highs and lows, as you know, Joey, and all of our peers in the Goodie Nation experience every week, every day, every hour. These moments and opportunities where your business can go this way or that way, but you kind of stay strong through the middle, through it all. I think for me personally, I kind of look at what's kind of kept me going really in two buckets. First one is more out of honor and love, I would say, and the second one is more out of it seems like very polar, but more out of like hate. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But on the honor and love tip, I look at all the sacrifices and all the people who came before me to put me on this stage or put me in this opportunity to do what we're doing. It's like, how can I not wake up in the morning? How can I put my best foot forward? How can I not be grateful for the highs and the lows through the journey, right? To put that in concrete, example of that, I'm a product of the justice system. Father was incarcerated when I was young, 5 years old. Seeing my mom work 2 jobs, Circuit City, like was Red Best Buy, and it's funny, Red Best Buy, and as a bank teller, just making sure I was never found wanting, and just seeing the resiliency of a lot of the matriarchs in my family and what they've been through, and just to make sure that we always had food on the table, we always had opportunity, we always was supported, right, growing up. So again, I think those stories, those ideals is really imbued in me, and it's like, how can I not get in the morning or code to 2 a.m. to make sure that we're doing something that honors the environmental justice movement that came before me. And that's a lot of the part of that as well, is that the work that we're doing and the mission we're doing is just around environmental justice. Injustice has been sparked in our community, and it's happened for decades upon decades. It was started within the Black justice movement after civil rights, and to build technology around those stories and making sure that we get what we've deserved yesterday is another thing that keeps us going. On the hatred side is this kind of the reciprocal of that, is that I really hate that the way we're dealing with environmental health, the fact that communities still get overburdened with pollution, the fact that this demographic, this zip code has this index of health disease issues related to environmental health. I really, really hate that, right? And so I'm like kind of have that Mamba mentality of like, woe is the world that really puts us and creates this environment that puts folks a little bit backwards, puts people further behind. And we're going to build something that's going to stand the test of time. It's going to make a real change and difference in what we're trying to do. So all that to say is that resiliency to me is really out of love and hate, honoring the people that came before me, and making sure that we remove those systemic issues that continue to plague our community. So that was a lot, but yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Nah, dope. Super dope. Actually, Casey, I want to kick it over to you.
I love how you just rebranded hate for good purposes. There's just a lot. There's a lot going on in the world right now, in society. And so we're all going to be feeling a lot of things. It's not just going to be waking up every morning and going, I feel great. I'm so excited to go work all day today. Like, we got to use what we're feeling sometimes. But I would love for all three of you, as we're sort of talking about mindset and what it takes to keep pushing as a founder, whether that's, love or hate or, the internal self-talk, as we're looking towards the next year of our societal development, the next 4 years of our societal development. I would love for each of you, if you could, kind of imagine if you had the perfect scenario for where you would like to see either your ventures proper, the innovation space in general, like if there are no restrictions, no budgets, no barriers, and this is just poof, this is the world I want to see. What will that look like? And I would actually love to start with Megan, if possible.
My gosh. So no limits whatsoever. I mean, the work of what's happening just within the whole generative AI and like artificial intelligence movement has been something that has been incredibly instrumental at Bountiful. And there's a saying that startup founders are often told, and hopefully Harry and Darren have heard this as well, but like startups get lucky, and that's at that opportunity. That's like where opportunity and preparedness essentially intersect. And in a lot of ways in the last year to 2 years, I have felt like Bountiful has gotten lucky. And just with the kind of adoption and development of where we are with AI. And while it is early days and there's still a tremendous amount of promise that technology can bring, like I am just so hopeful that regulatory burden doesn't become potentially an issue in the next like 4 years or 2 years or whatever that timeline is, while we're still navigating like the best ways to leverage AI to continue to benefit the business and the company, how we build solutions, and then ultimately to our customers. So that's definitely the first one that comes to mind for me. Outside of that, man, the world's my oyster. It'll be very easy to raise a Series A so we can continue to expand into new crop types and to continue to grow the business based on the growth trajectories that we're already on, would be my second one. So I guess those would be my top two that at least immediately come to mind.
Nice. Like, yes, we're always having discussions about AI now, but like just thinking about the regulatory and the policy and yes, this is going to be interesting to imagine what's going to happen with that. So thank you so much for sharing. Harry, same question.
Yeah, thank you. Megan, good points. And there's some, kind of concentric circles to some of the things I was thinking about here. Like, organizationally as a vision, I mean, like, I think Darren even used the word as well, democratization, right? Democratization of like mental fitness training and peak performance is like, we want to have, we want people to have access to like world-class coaching, across the board, right? We call it from PV to pro, but like from youth to adults to corporate athlete. And we want this, our offering and offerings like ours in schools. I have 3 daughters, 12, 9, and 7. One of mine is in 7th grade, gonna be in high school in a couple of years. We want this to be part of their curriculum, part of their everyday, part of their daily hygiene, right? And you mentioned AI, Megan. I mean, like we're kind of discovering and on this kind of constant quest for knowledge relative to how AI impacts not only how we build our business internally, kind of behind the curtain, but also how that impacts the offering of which we provide our users and our customers. And we also feel like we've been lucky on kind of riding that wave on as we learn and deploy and get real users, real people leveraging it to kind of validate some of the hypotheses that we've made. And so we do hope that the innovation around that continues to flourish, and the regulation piece is a curious one. So we're kind of having a watchful eye on that. But like everything's shifting so fast, and so we're trying to we're kind of constantly in this kind of survive in advance mode. It feels like where we're trying to manage kind of the cash flow and the capital, stay lean while innovating at the same time. And sometimes those two things kind of seem to butt heads with each other. But yes, I mean, like we feel like we want to provide world-class training on every cell phone, on every device possible, and having conversations with people at Verizon and T-Mobile and some of these largest platforms in the world to really be that solution. And if the world was our oyster, we'd be able to accomplish that. Does it happen within the next year? That's some pretty great velocity, but certainly over the next 3 to 5, we want to be a household name and bringing these solutions to people. So, yeah.
Very cool. What would you say? Imagine surviving in advance.
Yeah, it's like the NCAA tournament, right? You get to the dance, right? 1 of 64 teams, and now it's just about surviving in advance. Like, it doesn't matter if you won by 1 or 25. Like, it's a dub. So, like, just trying to survive in advance is oftentimes where I feel like as a founder we're at. Like, hey, because we feel like we're on the cusp, right? We're on the cusp of like doing something great and having the growth that we imagine, and also on the cusp of of things could get dicey, right? You're always kind of like on that run. So we want to obviously continue to survive in advance, particularly as a company, as it pertains to like the innovation with AI and but we're excited. We're really optimistic about it.
Very cool. And I love that reframing. Imagination as survival tactic. Like it's all the things are happening. Darren, why don't you bring us home? What are you imagining for the next year?
Yeah, I kind of started with that. I was gonna go like just imagining just more super ambitious aspirations with the company. I'll say, our vision is pretty straightforward. Is a fundamental right to breathe clean air, the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, essential for life. And our vision is to really unlock that ability to manage local air quality, so that any child, any community, anybody steps outside, they realize that the things that those 20,000 breaths that they're taking every day are ones that are working for their health and well-being and not against their well-being. So the company, that's we're steadfast on and really working towards. On the my kind of aspirations on the community side, I think really is just inspired by a lot of the great work you all have been doing at Goodie Nation. I won't go too deep in experience, but I know Joey knows what I'm talking about. We had it's kind of comes full circle, is having these vulnerable spaces, these opportunities to know that you're not at it alone, right? I remember we had it was during the Google retreat in New York, and I won't get too emotional, but we had a little tear jerk moment with Joey and I, and just seeing each other as Black men and understanding what we're going through, and we're heads down on our keyboards, but at the end of the day, we kind of know what's happening, all the vulnerabilities and all the things that are happening around us, and still have to stay strong and lead, the work that we really care and passionate about. And I think creating and forging those communities where it's not an anomaly, where Goodie Nation having that sacred space, but everyone can find these spaces, right? To be vulnerable, knowing that you're not at it alone, knowing that your craziest, wildest vision for the world can be created, and it's in your hands and power to do so. And you got a whole community surrounding you. So hats off to Goodie Nation for really providing that platform. And I think I would love to see a future where that's all around us. It's just by nature that everybody that's building in the founder and innovation space has a community they can turn to really get out their dreams. So yeah.
Super dope. Yeah, that was a great moment. That was a great moment up in New York, and actually even Detroit as well a few weeks ago. And as we close out this section, this segment, excuse me, I want to kick it back over to Harry. So Harry and I have been talking for a few months now around this thing around performance mindset, right? We talk about grinding to greatness and stuff like that, and what it takes to really actually make it happen. And so we've been talking about doing like a dinner series, right, where we bring together some founders, some investors, some people in the corporate tech space, and pair them with folks from Harry's network, from his startup and stuff like that. So, Harry, you want to speak a little bit more around maybe the potential for that, maybe your vision and stuff?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the vision started pre-COVID, right? So, one of my co-founders is my younger brother, who is Russell Wilson. So he's won a Super Bowl, plays for the Steelers now, hopefully on a little bit of a run. We'll see. But, part of his secret sauce was he had this mindset coach that was like world-class. This guy named Trevor Moawad. He's written a couple books. Trevor was kind of the modern day godfather of the mental conditioning space. And back when pre-COVID, we were starting to do these performance mindset dinners. Unfortunately, COVID hit, they stopped. Trevor actually got sick, not with COVID, but with cancer. He would end up passing away in 2021. But the whole premise of those mindset dinners was to build that community. We've been talking about community a lot, right? And in those rooms, in those intimate rooms, 20 people or less, we had a mix of investors, entrepreneurs, founders, some, founders, CEOs, operators, maybe some other folks in the rooms that we could sit around a table, quite literally, and talk about, how does peak performance translate from the world of sports to the world of business, right? From the world of sports to the world of building something from the ground up, right? Because there's no better definition of what a corporate athlete is than an entrepreneur, right? Where the scoreboard doesn't lie, right? If you win, you'll be well rewarded. If you don't, you'll have to find excellence elsewhere, right? And that pressure to perform on a daily basis, weekly basis, quarterly basis, yearly basis is so heavy a lot of people can't withstand it. And so we thought that we have really unique access to world-class mindset coaches I mentioned earlier. Let's bring these people to these dinners, and let's get around a table and not only build community, but kind of have people leave with actionable tools and resources and some strategies, just like some of the world's greatest athletes, to bring back home with them, right? And to share those with their teams. And so Joey and I, like you said, have been talking about doing this in partnership with Goodie and Limitless to bring these communities that we formed together and have, really intimate sessions where we can, all own a piece of the conversation. And so going to 2025, I think that Joey and I are kind of forging a path to get those going and continue to build that community around it.
I love it. Yeah, we will get these things started. So we're going to try to do the pilot in Atlanta, but we have the ability to do it, anywhere, especially, again, if we want to draw some lines between some of the earlier segments in LA and Chicago, New York, DC, or whatever. So super excited for that potential. So let's hop on a call maybe in the next day or so and work out some more details to make some of this stuff happen. So truly appreciate it. I mean, you are the definition of grinding to greatness. I appreciate your leadership in the huddles, in the Goodie Nation community. We got a few folks calling from Brooklyn and stuff like that. And so,
Joey, can I say one more thing? Do I have a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that's just been on my heart and mind recently is, like, we are surrounded by negativity, right? And honestly, like, as human beings, like, we respond to negativity a certain way, right? We have a negativity bias. It's how our brains are engineered for a lot of reasons, just historically, right? And with social media and our news platforms and, over the last handful of, like the social injustice and the political landscape and all these different things that exist in our daily basis, like, we are forced to combat negativity more than ever, right? More than ever. And as founders, for those that are kind of engaging in this platform, and founders, like, even, 2x it, 5x that, right? And so we have to find ways to combat the negativity in our space. And it's not just going straight to positivity, because, like I mentioned earlier, like, things are difficult, things are tough. It's hard to just kind of be toxic, to have that toxic positivity. But having tools, and I mentioned your self-talk and your internal ad campaign, what we're saying to ourselves, right? Tools like gratitude, all these things are so critical, right? Our organization, we have a gratitude channel on our Slack that, like, every day is kind of a standard that's been kind of created organically. Everybody on the team is noting what they're grateful for, right? Whether it be somebody on the team, whether it be something around family or their health or whatever it might be, just to ground them and kind of make them dangerous when it comes to how they respond to negativity. Because data shows that we have about 60 to 80,000 subconscious thoughts a day. 60 to 80,000. That same data shows that 80% of those thoughts are negative. 80%, right? And when verbalized, they're weaponized against you, right? And so this, like, negativity is so powerful. And back to the question of, like, what do I hope for the next year, is I hope that, like, we're just able to kind of start to chip away at the negativity around us and give people tools, right? That they can help combat that daily negativity that is kind of constantly surrounding them, right? Whether it be a family member, a spouse, a friend, a co-founder, somebody that works for you, whatever it might be. It's so critical. And so that's why, like, that democratization of, like, world-class mindset coaching is so critical. I just want to share that, because then everybody understands how powerful negativity is and why it's perpetuated because of just the landscape around us from particularly this, right? This thing right here it's a tool for good, but it can be used against you, right? So you got to have strategies around it. So I know I probably went long, but I just want to share that with you guys, because it's been on my heart and mind recently. And and things that like we have to kind of support each other in this community to help each other with that.
No. I absolutely love it. So yeah, one, whatever something on your heart and mind, we definitely encourage you to say it. And we didn't necessarily design it like this in terms of the flow, but I think this goes in terms of the agenda for today, the flow of it. But I think it goes perfectly into our next segment around community builders, because these folks we're about to bring up next, they're responsible for another subset of people, right? Another whole group of people. And if the community builders have a negative mindset, I'm sure that's going to go down to them. So if they have a positive mindset, and they have the tools, obviously, to deal with it, and then I mean the potential for impact is limitless, no pun intended. So I truly appreciate you, man. I truly appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys.
See you later.
Take care. Peace.
Awesome. So there it is. Another amazing segment, Grind to Greatness. Casey, any quick thoughts?
I mean, just those stats about the negative thought feed 80% of our thought, like we should stop that. I know it's not just something you do, but this, I think events like this, even for me, I'm like, man, we need more of this. We need to promote more positive thinking within ourselves. So this is great.
Right. So as we're rolling along, we are halfway through Goodie Nation on Giving Tuesday. We're about to bring to the stage a bunch of just dope community builders, dot connectors, bridge builders. Before we kind of share, more of their stories and things like that. Quick reminder: if you want to donate and help us do more around performance mindset coaching for the innovation community, do more around sub community building across the country and industries and by identity and stuff like that. This whole United States of Good concept. Feel free to donate to us by texting Goodie 24 to 707070. And so, yeah, let's bring up some plugs, right? We're going to call them this segment is called The Plug. So I'm going to bring a few just dope folks to the stage. Some folks that they don't necessarily know this. Maybe they do. But they don't necessarily know this, but I take a lot of inspiration, from them. And so they are really good at what they do in terms of building community and making connections, and a lot of stuff in between. I cannot sit here and say individually how great they are, because I would not do them justice. But we're going to go around the horn pretty quick for some quick intros, and then we'll kind of get into, community building, their thoughts and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of go as it appears on my screen. I'm going to go with Alasia, then we'll go with Regina for a quick intro. So if you could say, name, organization, and a little bit about, the community that you've been over, some of your, experience, maybe take like 30 or so seconds. Alasia, we'll start with you.
Joey, I'm long-winded, so cut me off at the 30-second mark. I'm Alasia Brown, the co-founder of Black Girls Chillin'. Black Girls Chillin' is a digital and IRL community created to protect the Black girl in every Black woman. We started at the height of the pandemic. We set out to meet one time for 90 minutes. That turned into 70 weeks straight of meeting with Black women. And today we're consistently meeting in person and digitally, again, just creating spaces where Black women feel protected, safe, and just honoring, again, the Black girl that's in every Black woman.
Love that. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Regina Gwen. I'm one of the co-founders of Black Women Talk Tech. We're the largest resource platform for Black women tech entrepreneurs and tech professionals. We've been building this community since 2017. So huge shout out to Joey, building and supporting communities of entrepreneurs and startups. We're industry agnostic. We educate, amplify, and fund Black women to make billion-dollar moves.
I love it. Let's go with Trevor and then Scooter.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for having me on as always, Joey. Trevor Wilkins here. I lead partner engagement at Scale Health. Scale Health is a healthcare transformation marketplace. We essentially serve as translators between healthcare startups, helping them navigate the vertical, and then healthcare organizations looking to take their group into the future of healthcare innovation. I'm very fortunate I get to sit in between the two parties and kind of light up those connections. Excited to be here.
There it is. And Scooter.
Yeah, what's up, everyone? Thanks for having me on, Joey. Feels good to be hanging out with Goodie Nation today. My name is Scooter Taylor. I'm currently in Brooklyn from Memphis, Tennessee. Kind of cut my teeth in the startup scene in Atlanta. Currently run West Peak, which is a community for creatives, entrepreneurs, and professionals to learn, partner, and connect. We really got a big push in our start with an initiative called Quarantine Con back in the pandemic. So very similar. We started in the pandemic and 5,000 people jumped on to one of our first virtual events. And we held several more events in the pandemic virtually. So getting back to doing just more workshops, more dinners, and just, connecting great people with great people now.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Just again, I am in. This is such a pleasure. I feel like I'm amongst my peeps. Don't tell everybody else, right? But I feel like I'm amongst my peeps here. A lot of people are doing a lot of just dope stuff. Before I want to kick it to each of you all for examples of your some more details of your work around community building. Maybe again any success stories and things of that nature. Before that, I was we have the back channel here, and a lot of y'all were really feeling what Harry was saying and stuff. Anybody have any thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I think I didn't even know performance mindset coaching was like a term that I could use. But as he was speaking, I was like, that is what I've been looking for. So I'm literally Googling as he's talking. And again, Casey, you mentioned just the stats. It's one of those things that you feel, I think, throughout your days. But being able to put a number to it, I just was like, okay, so I'm not tripping. And I think that's another kind of like highlight and reason why we do community building, for that that I'm not tripping kind of aha moment that you tend to get in community. So yeah, again, just happy that he reaffirmed so much of what I've been feeling lately.
Gotcha.
And I would also
Regina, it seemed like
say,
you
yeah, I was just like, preach, brother. I'm over here like hallelujah. And if I had a tambourine, I think that part of what came to mind for me is, to your point, Alasia, like, wow, you've never heard of that, but it's our communities that haven't heard of these things, right?
Mm.
Because everybody else is out here like focused on having coaches and making sure that they have the tools that they need. And it's about capacity building. It's about resource building and development. That is why our work in particular on this panel is so very important, to bring in those tools, not only to introduce our communities to those tools, but to actually like give them an opportunity to do it. I find myself oftentimes like when I learn something, I'm like, that's interesting. I'm probably late. I'm probably like, oh, you know what? I'm sure Joe Schmo down the street has been doing these things, and I'm just now like getting up to speed. And listen, like I've been blessed and had all these great opportunities and travel the world and all the things, and yet still our networks prevent us from access in ways that sometimes we just don't even know what we don't know. So it's just that much more important to, bust down doors and tell everybody, like, I'm gonna leave this call and I'm gonna be like, performance mindset coaching. What do we need to do? How we need to get it up to speed. Let's do a LinkedIn live. Let's do a post, something. Because we are all we got out here, for sure.
There it is. And yeah, if you folks are seem to be in New York, and so maybe we can try to organize a dinner there sometime soon.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, actually, Regina, I want to start with you. You've been building for a minute in the space, and so I want to share, if you could take maybe a few minutes to share a little bit more around your work, and again, maybe any success stories and stuff like that in the work of Black Women Talk Tech.
Absolutely. So I myself am a tech founder. I launched a startup way back when, and it was really, really hard. And it's, that's clearly not surprising to anyone. It's hard as any entrepreneur, but being a woman and being a woman of color definitely, added additional complexity that was just, sometimes very unnecessary. And essentially my co-founder and I created Black Women Talk Tech to be the thing that we wished we would have had. So we know this story intimately. We've walked in every founder's shoes, trying to figure out your technical stack, trying to figure out your fundraising strategy, getting 1,000 billion no's. And so it was really affirming to see the community continue to grow over the past, going on 8 years, which is crazy. We started at Google hosting a very small, it was a meetup. Like we were like, hey, are there other Black women founders out here struggling? Can you raise your hand? And if so, would you like to join us and learn from each other and have more of this peer-to-peer education? We put a blast out 2 weeks ahead of time. We had the room for like 70 people and over 300 RSVPs came through. And this was in 2017. At the time, maybe 20 Black women had raised $1 million in VC. We had 6 of them in the room. And being able to literally hear their stories of how they did that. Like, how exactly did you do this thing? I think it was just really powerful. So fast forward to 2024, when we hosted our 8th annual Roadmap to Billions conference, we had over 2,000 entrepreneurs and technologists and investors join us in Brooklyn, New York. And that's my success story, like being able to, continue to do this work, continue to see entrepreneurs get funded, get connected at our conference. They meet their co-founder, they meet their advisor, they meet a business coach, they meet their accountant, they meet their lawyer. They meet each other and they're able to really build and grow those networks, which are just, so very valuable. And then we get to talk about money. And I think that's the part that we need to continue to do. I will always say that I like money. There's nothing wrong with saying I like money. I like what it does. I like all the things that you're able to do with it, not necessarily the love of money, but the access that money can provide. And being able to feel comfortable in talking about money and on connecting that into talking about your financials is also something that, is just a huge initiative of ours. So I will wrap up. I know that we have lots of really good people on the call, but I would definitely say that's my success story. We've raised women that have come to our conferences have raised millions of dollars in venture. They've gotten into investment pipelines. They've gone on to, win 43 North competitions and get into Techstars and Y Combinator. So it's all, it reinforces like why we do what we do. And yes, it can be very, very challenging. And sometimes you do scratch your head and you're like, do these chicks even know all the things that we do behind the scenes? Probably not. But I do think that it just is that much more worth it because we know that the power is there and the influence and the access is there when that opportunity is also there. So yeah, we're excited about 2024 and much more to come.
I love it. I love it. There's a whole thing around, if the people truly understand what we do for them behind the scenes, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. We got some time. You know how long people gotta say. We got 45 more minutes left in this segment, but if y'all can stay, whatever it is, right? So I want to go chronologically because 2017 for Black Women Talk Tech, pandemic hits 2020, excuse me. Scooter hops in and creates a movement, right? Literally creates a movement. I'm watching this thing happen in real time. So Scooter, listen, we've been going for 2 hours plus, straight talking. But Scooter, if you want to share a little bit more around the story, quarantine, kind of everything that kind of happened after that, and also again, are there any like impacts of your work around building community?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a wild time, and to think that 5 years ago, I think the first reported case of COVID was ever in the world was reported 5 years ago. So it feels like it was so long ago now, but the memories are very vivid. So I was at home for my mom's birthday dinner, and a friend reached out and said, hey, we should think about, checking out this virtual platform called Hopin. And so we get on Hopin, and I start to see how, people can do the virtual networking and one-to-one video chats. And to me, that was really cool. Right now it's kind of, it's like whatever, but back at that moment, it was like, this is revolutionary. And, we're all about to be at home for quarantine and shelter in place. What if we just all got together virtually? And so I went through the Rolodex and texted, Julberg Solomon and Bea Dixon and just Jason Jeter, right? Just various speakers that I think people wanted to hear from, who were very successful in their own right. But it was great to see them, sitting on their living room floor or sitting on their couch, just like the rest of us, after reading the headlines of them raising millions or having this amazing company and selling their company. And so it was a great moment for all of us, really, just to come together and learn, partner, and connect. We planned this in about 4 days, and we thought we'd get a couple hundred people to show up, but 5,000 people were on. And so from there, the wheels just started turning, and we kept doing events, right? We brought on Ashley Fox and Rodney Boyd with, Amplify, right, and Wealth Builders, and brought them on for our next event. We ended up having a pitch competition. We worked with Jopwell and did a career fair. And so we just did a lot of things to kind of get people access to opportunities, and then most importantly, to come together, right, and to learn. And so we've had a couple different success stories out of that. I had a person call me the other day. They're starting B school at Michigan, and she called me and just to kind of say thank you, right? That one of our events that we held, she met someone who helped her with the MBA application, kind of helped coach her through, some of the successes and the pitfalls, and now she's starting B school at Michigan, right? It's interesting also too, right? I was in Memphis at the time. I had lived in Atlanta. But how virtual we were able to spread and just impact a number of different people in different places. And so I now live in Brooklyn, and I went to an event maybe 3 weeks ago, and one of the photographers was like, "Yo, Quarantine Con." And so we started talking about those times virtually, and how he was saying that, it was a very impactful time for him to be able to just stay in the game and stay engaged as he was launching into full-time entrepreneurship. So I think, between KPIs and revenue strategies and sales and marketing and TikTok trends, right? Like at the end of the day, a lot of times we just sometimes need people to talk to, right? People to talk to, bounce ideas off of, and a lot of entrepreneurs are going through similar challenges, right? And so when I say something and Regina or Joey, right, says, "Oh, I've been through that, and here's how I navigated it," I can sleep easier, right? I now have more time and more freed up and more mental space to call my mom and just check in and not be, kind of weighed down by this. So that's the goal that we're starting with right now is continuing to bring people together, whether virtually or in person, and help lighten the load for each other and just really showcase our power through our interconnectedness versus this independence of I've got it on my own and I don't need Joey. And every time I see him, I need to kind of hold this facade that I'm killing it, right? And it's no. Maybe I have a rough day, and I think Joey can help, or he knows someone that can help me. So,
super dope, super dope. I love the story of the person at Michigan and getting into B school there. I'm gonna kick it over to Legion in a second. And as you were speaking, Scooter, I was thinking about how I was watching the latest episode of Lioness last night. I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody. But it's an amazing set of talks. I'll just say there's two really good talks, and one of the talks is by the guy, I forgot the name of the actor, bald head at the top, and the guy's the deputy CI director. He was telling Zoe Saldana's character, the rest of your team, they are forces, right? Essentially, we were saying that they're expendable. I think technically he actually said that. But he said that she is a force multiplier and she is indispensable, right? And so when we think about community builders, I think that in many cases we are force multipliers, right, for good. And I think, not enough attention is given to how indispensable you all are in particular. So Alasia, I want to kick it to you. So around the same time, Scooter's doing this thing, you do your thing as well. So can you share a little bit more around your work, and then also, the impact of it, any success stories?
For sure. So it's crazy that all this time has passed by. I kind of got my start in community building back in 2016, 2017. And at Endeavor Atlanta, organizations like Sales Loft, where I don't even know if they were calling it community building at the time, but they were essentially letting me do community building work Ask Me Anything events, things like that. And so when the pandemic hit, March 2020, my best friend and I, who's also my co-founder, Nde Chubu, she and I were on the phone 24/7. I remember we were like, girl, there is no toilet paper. I was in Atlanta, she was in New York, and we probably called one another like 14 times that day. And the next day we were like, we want to keep freaking out, but we're kind of tired of talking to one another. So we need to find other people to freak out with. And we literally got on Canva. We were going to call it Quarantine and Kiki. And I'm so happy we did not do that because I'm just happy we did not do that. And so we were like, let's just call it Black Girls Chillin'. We created a Canva graphic. We sent it to our friends. And I think that night, maybe like 60 women got on Zoom. And I'll never forget, we were like, what's the high and what's the low of this moment? And people were crying and laughing. And I think we even did like a meditation at the end. And at the end of the call, it was supposed to be an hour and a half. We met for like 3 hours. At the end of that call, the women were like, so like next week this time? And Day and I were like, okay, sure. And before you know it, we were doing it every single Thursday. And we just, the more that we listened to people, the more that we were like, we can be helpful in this moment. We can lean on one another in this moment. I think Nde and I were so apprehensive to keep doing it consistently because we're like, we're not licensed psychologists. Do we really have the bandwidth and I don't know. I think sometimes you feel like you might need like a license or this or that to hold space in that way. And the women just in those sessions kept encouraging us to keep, creating space. So again, every Thursday for an hour and a half, Black women came together and we just listened to the community. We talked about everything from ghosting to, which was during Halloween. That's a whole other story. But, just real things. It was a bit of like reactive marketing going on when Sex and the City came out, or I forgot what they called it at the time, the HBO remake. And just like that, we had conversations about what is it like to hold space for friendships that don't look like, your cousin or your mom or your dad. And so again, we just kept having conversations. And to this day, again, we don't meet every Thursday, but we meet on a quarterly basis, virtually and in person. And again, we're still listening to our community. We're still being reactive. We're still saying what's going on in your life. How can we support? If I had to think back to a success story, I would say anytime women connect, who only met one another virtually, but trust one another and us enough to create relationships that they feel like they can meet up in person, it feels like a success story. We've had women from Paris, from Toronto join. We've had women in LA meet up with women when they visit New York. So again, anytime people have only met one another from the shoulders up and decide to meet up in person, it feels like a success story.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I like the reactive marketing piece. I love it. I love it. So next up, I want to kick it over to Trevor. We have another guest. We have some questions. I know some people, you all are super busy. So here's the one thing about being a community builder, a connector. You got a lot of people that ask you for your time and stuff like that. So I want to be sensitive to you all. Sometimes everybody has to kind of roll into the next thing. Truly appreciate it. But Trevor, I want to kick it over to you, right? So you build community, you connect people, you build bridges, based on industry, right? In the health space and stuff like that. So again, can you share a little bit more about your work, any success stories and things of that nature? Then we're going to bring up another guest.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you all for sharing your experiences and stories as well. While I wasn't in those circles, I remember being in kind of my own during the pandemic. I actually started at Scale Health about a month before the pandemic started with zero healthcare background. And so a lot of it was just drinking from a fire hose, jotting down notes on a lot of 3-letter, 4-letter acronyms, and then, hitting up Google, right, pre-chat GPT, just hitting up Google, trying to figure out and understand what they stood for. But I think even in that space, personally, I'd say, I'm from Chicago, originally South Side, and I feel like I've lived a very Black life until college, and then you go into the work world, and always have my community. Always went out the way to make sure that I was kind of bringing bringing people along with me, and or trying to pay for it, those that had brought me along. But when the pandemic happened, and I was at Scale Health, obviously there was a lot of push towards DEI. There was a lot of push towards there was everything going on just in the world and in the nation with George Floyd and everything. But what I found and what I've been able to kind of circle and bring back to the Goodie Nation space is just I personally benefited from finding just some dope kind of serendipitous mentors, people who were speaking, who were really kind of helping me navigate those 3-letter acronyms, people who took the time when they really did not have to. I'm talking CIOs of hospital execs, C-suites or C-suites or VPs at payer organizations, insurers. And so it really helped me, when you talk about iron sharpen iron, if I've ever been able to give anybody insights, and if I've ever been able to give anybody kind of help from a healthcare innovation standpoint, it is because I had some the community that I didn't even realize that I was a part of really fed into me. And then in my position, it really helped me from that perspective, being able to just almost kind of play point guard and just kind of distribute and kind of help out more folks as well. It's been, the function of Scale Health has changed, not dramatically, but in a large way since we came into the pandemic as Scale LA, and really kind of paid attention and read the tea leaves and just kind of where the market was going. We focused a lot on Los Angeles before, but flattened as the pandemic came along, and really, dove into our online platform. It really allowed us to leverage and create community in a completely different way, which was dope and random and cool all at the same time. We were able to put on a lot of AMAs, a lot of meet and greets with people, with stakeholders and decision makers in the healthcare tech space that a lot of founders might not have been able to get, in touch with and in tune with. And, a lot of them were able to willing to give their time. I think it was Regina who mentioned, similar, they were just like us, sitting on their couch, sitting on their floor at home. Everybody impacted by it, right? And as we've navigated out of the pandemic over the last couple of years, it's been awesome to kind of see that community stick. As we kind of navigate either to different conferences or even the monthly verticals that I lead over at Goodie Nation. I had to give a shout out to that one time, but it's been super exciting to see in that space. But I'd say from as we were building this network, and kind of specifically in my position, I'd say I benefited from the community a lot before I actually kind of turned that around and kind of spread it out from there. So a very pay it forward moment. A lot of pay it forward moments that I've been very fortunate to be a part of.
I love it. So before we get to the next set of questions, we have another dope person with us, and then after KT goes, I'm gonna kick it to Regina and Alasia. I know that you all were at the community builder therapy session. Well, actually, KT was as well, I believe. But KT, you want to do a super quick intro, and if you could share a little bit more around your work, connecting people, building bridges and stuff like that, and particularly in the innovation space.
Absolutely. So hi, thanks for having me here, Joey, and what a great group to be in. And thanks for the patience on being late. I am subject to Atlanta's power grid, and it failed me today. But I'm Katie McBratney. I am a partner and head of community at Renew VC. And really community for me goes back to when I was not even yet a founder, but an operator. So it's really kind of been this thread through everything that I've done, moving from the community space actually on the brand side. And always it was part of marketing, it was strategy, it was sales, it was like all woven in, and realized community was the thread that was not just building communities, but helping people. So after my my turn. I was an operator at Stevens Burke, CMO there, very community-led, amazing platform. I know Emily is part of the Goodie Nation as well. I was the founder of OwnTro, which was a community-led platform all about visualizing your path through life. And from there, came over to Renew VC, where I feel like we have to have capital and we have to have the investors woven into community in a healthy way if we want to bridge that relationship gap, but also as we think about being human first. And to me, that's the value and need for community. Really, it can serve as a recentering that we are people building businesses for people, and not just to move numbers on a spreadsheet, and not just to make a lot of money, but it's all of that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So one of the things that you all were speaking, I know that again, I have a special place in my heart for community builders. Some people may call it a bias, as far as a lot of people here. And so as you all were speaking, I started to see the connections between, members of your community in the overlap, right? So for context, there are people that Trevor works with, Black women that either are or should be a part of Black Women Talk Tech, right? That could also be speakers for quarantine content and stuff that Scooter is doing, and could potentially be investors or investments for KT and stuff. And so again, I might imagine there is some overlap between the communities represented here and others, right? And so I love to see when we can kind of again almost Voltron up and then amplify more of these amazing people. And so taking it a little bit of a different direction, Virginia, I'm going to come to you first because about a month ago, 2 days, let's just call it November 7th. There's a big thing that happened November 5th. We hosted a informal group therapy session for community builders. Now, this was a spinoff of what we have done for entrepreneurs for years at Goodie Nation, right? So we call it founder therapy, where all founders need therapy. For the first time ever, we did one for community builders as a way for community builders to get stuff off their chest, amongst other people that build community. So Regina, any thoughts from your end on what the experience was like, what you took from it or the value of it and stuff like that?
Definitely cherished that hour, talking to other community builders, letting our hair down, being extremely open and vulnerable and very transparent and sitting in just literally the emotion of that particular time. I was very, very angry at that time. And so that anger had left me speechless. So I didn't have any words for my community at the time. I wasn't able to send a flowery, fist up in the air IG post. Like I just didn't have it. I did not have it. I have a little bit more now, and I'm really focused right now. So it feels good that just sometimes you just need some time and some space. But that particular therapy session was just really beneficial. The timing, I think, was impeccable. It wasn't like the day after, but it was like a couple of days. So it gave you some time, a little bit of space. And then I do think that as a community builder and a community organizer, there are different considerations that you have to take into play as you are sharing information, as you are, putting a statement out or putting some sort of position, because people are looking at you and saying, oh, you represent tens of thousands of people. So how you move in that regard and how Regina moves, individually, is something that is always a challenge to navigate, and hearing how other people are doing it is really important. I look forward to the next one and being able to dig into more of that as the next 6 months, the January 20th, like there's going to be plenty of moments where we're going to continue to need each other and need to be able to lean into that advice for sure.
No, definitely. Scooter, you were there as well?
I was there. Yeah, I was in the background, kind of like just listening in. But it was good to kind of, again, hear from people who typically are the strongest. They're the front runner. They typically have, the solutions, to kind of hear us and hear other community builders just kind of say, I'm lost, I'm tired, I'm frustrated. I thought that was like super important. I think there was a great line somewhere in there about how if you were a superhero, you don't have to wear the cape every day or something to that effect. So that stuck with me a lot.
Yeah, I believe it was, and we'll go to Legend and KC. I think it was something along the lines of using your cape as a blanket.
Yeah, right. Turn the cape.
Yeah, that was when she said that. I was like, oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, turn your cape to a blanket. Yep. Yeah, Legend. Yeah, your thoughts.
Yeah, community builders do indeed need therapy. So yes, I think knowing that I was going to have that space a couple of days later, Black Girls Chillin' actually held a space for Black women the day of the election that evening, just to be like, we don't have programming, we don't have a fancy script. You're frustrated. You might even feel optimistic if you do bring that, because I know we don't. We just held like an open space for people to be in conversation. And I think it was easier to do that knowing that I'd have a space to go to a couple of days later. So again, community builders do indeed need therapy, and just super grateful that you hosted that space, Joey.
There it is. And then KT, what about you? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was absolutely necessary. Echo, like, founders need therapy, community builders need therapy, we all need therapy, right? But to be able to have that safe space where there was already a shorthand. People already knew the weight that community builders carry and the emotional and mental labor that goes into it, not just the number of emails sent and the number of connections made and events attended and programs, right? It's a lot of mental and emotional labor, and we're also full people as part of that role, but also outside of that. And so to have that space, not just for us to share, but I think also to listen and to be witness to each other in that moment is really truly community at its finest. And so I was really grateful to share space with that group of people, some of whom are here as well, and feel validated, feel less alone, and feel like we could take a second to catch our breath before another wave crashed down upon us. Because we aren't in these waters alone. There are people who swam in them before us and those who are coming behind us. And that's the power of community, is we can catch our breath and move beyond treading water and make real distance. So it was a gift.
I love it. So super quick. We're gonna do a round of Imagine That, right? The round of Imagine That as it relates to support for community builders. Regina, I'll start with you. I'm gonna give you a second to think about it. But again, the prompt is, if there's no constraints, no budgetary constraints, anything, just imagine what you would like to see as it relates for support for community builders. But before I kind of, we'll open the floor up for this particular event, right? And for those watching, the folks on the team kind of know this somewhat. Like Casey may somewhat know this, like in Alasia as well. Like, I will try something in a second with no experimentation before it. Professional. We declare professional. And so what I mean by that is we did not, before we had this event, we did not do a pilot version of it. We had done the All Founders Need Therapy, again, going back to 2011, but I'd never done one for community builders. And the All Founder Need Therapy sessions is a curated group of people, meaning they're already in the Goodie Nation community. We know each other. This one was public. I didn't know how it was going to play out. I had a thought. And I trusted, like, oh, please let this happen. Go off well. And I think it did, right? Because I think there's inherent trust built between, community builders, whether they know each other or not. Mm-hmm. So I want to thank everyone for attending and stuff. But Regina, I'll kick it over to you, right? So Magic Wand, Imagine That. What type of support would you love to see for community builders, in 2025? Or we can go to somebody else.
Say again?
Oh, if you don't know, we can go to somebody else.
Oh, no. I mean, have lots of thoughts on how community builders can be supported. But I would say that one of the biggest needs is more transparency across networks. I think that sometimes community builders feel like, oh, well, I hold Microsoft, and like I hold Google, and like I hold these people have enough to give to everyone. And I think that there's more conversation that can be had about what does partnership across networks that, Joey, you touched on it, right? Like I may have healthcare tech founders in my network, and then, you've got, I'm the whole screen right now, so I can't see the guy's name. Apologies. But I know he's working on, a healthcare connection platform, and then you've got venture dollars that could be potentially in, like, just being able to have more of the cross connection across community partners is definitely a wish for 2025. Also global, like nationally and globally, right? So not only do we host a conference in New York City, but we also host Roadmap to Billions in London. We just stood up our first Roadmap to Billions in Toronto in September of this year. So how are we connecting and sharing some of these stories and sharing best practices with all of the organizations that are working on advancing more entrepreneurs and technologists of color? There's amazing work happening in Canada, amazing work happening in Toronto, nanotechnology, biochemistry stuff. I'm sitting here like, wow, all these engineers are no joke. So just, wanting to just kind of take it to that next level. The first step was just to get this critical mass of organizations that are doing awesome work. So that's great. Love it. Check it. Bam. Fabulous. Now, how are we taking it to that next level of power? Power is my word for 2025. You cannot take my power from me. And you cannot take my power from anyone in my organization, in my network, in my family, period, the end. So I want to find more ways to leverage that power. And that leveraging comes from connecting into more organizations, which are, i.e., more sources of power.
I love it. I see KT shaking her head there. And so I'm going to come to you next. But before that, I think it was said in the segment earlier, Regina, that Casey, correct me if I'm wrong. Someone said, I think collaboration is the currency of progress. Around the cross collaboration and stuff. So
that's it.
Casey, I want to kick it over to you.
Yeah. I was like nodding. I think I have a neck ache from agreeing with you so much, Regina. But on that same thought of collaboration and cross-pollination, when Joe, you had shared that sentence, like, okay, you can imagine. And I like to imagine like very childlike, with a lot of wonder. And I thought of this idea of like, we have bubbles in community. We're used to bubbles. We're used to bubbles of relationships, of capital, of access, of things like that. And while we need to preserve some of those bubbles for safety and things like that, I would love to see some of them shift from this bubble structure into links. And so this idea that by collaborating, we can not just create new opportunities, but we're creating new structures, right? Using the same building blocks and saying, how can we rearrange this? It doesn't have to be this one on top of this one. What if we put this one next to each other and have a bigger base? And I think that that's the kind of imagination that breeds more imagination, if that makes sense. And it is that force multiplier, right? Is saying like, we don't have to always operate in silos. And if we are, let's have the courage and the leadership to examine why that is and what we might benefit from opening those up while still preserving the integrity and the safety of our communities. And so this idea of like, instead of having little pockets, even within regional or city ecosystems, but beyond that as well, in saying, how can we think of them more like links, more like threads that we can weave into a stronger fabric, instead of holding on and protecting and moving more so into this abundance, not just mentality and mindset. I love, related to the performance coaching, and also saying, how do we take that mindset of abundance and turn it into a practical operating system? Because there are people who can, as Regina said, they've got plenty to give to everyone. So let's make sure it makes its way around.
I love it. Scooter, what about you? Imagine that, right? Magic wand. What would you like to see, happen next year as it relates to supporting community builders?
Yeah, I think like more conversations across, just different disciplines, I guess. Like, building community is not just in tech spaces or with career focused things, right? It's all over. And I think you just hit on it where, we can learn a lot from history, right? Sometimes it that may not repeat itself, but it definitely rhymes. And so how are there more forums, more spaces where community builders from the past and history and different worlds come together, especially as we're seeing, at least in the tech space, right? Our world is bleeding over into now politics. And like, if you're a founder, it's not just keep your head down and build your company and worry about revenue and do your thing. You've got to really worry about what's happening in the political space, how are international relations, laws that are maybe affecting your team, right? When it comes to maternity leave and all these different things. So you have to just be more informed as a founder. And so that as a community builder, right, how are you able to now expand your range and your capacity to kind of deal with these concepts if typically you haven't before, right? You're so used to maybe helping a founder navigate co-founder challenges, but now you've got to think about, some of these other things. And I think there are people out there that have that roadmap and that blueprint. So if I had a magic wand, it'd be a lot more retreats, a lot more dinners for us just to get together with good people who genuinely have people's best interests at heart and have strategies, have solutions that we can kind of tinker with. I had to throw in a tech thing as well, of course, though. But I think, AI is super powerful. It's an amplifier. And so, not just how can AI help the community builder and tools to like get work off our plate, but also amplify the work of the people in the community. I think that's like also super important to think about. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
Super dope. Super dope. We'll go Alasia and then Trevor. Alasia, again, magic wand. What would you like to see?
I would like to see organizations and leadership trust community in the same way that engineers, product marketing, product, sales, marketing is trusted. If I had a magic wand, community would be its own function. Also, organizations, large organizations, think your Walmart, your Targets, etc. They would trust community builders to speak to the community. They wouldn't take it upon themselves to, speak to people that they don't know intimately. So I think if I had a magic wand, those would be my 2 wishes.
I love it. I don't know about the Walmart stuff. I know some good people.
We'll talk. You get what I'm saying. Large corp. I think there's so many organizations that are like, we'll do it. And it's like, no, don't. We could have avoided so many problems if you let the community builders do the community speaking.
Right. I feel you. And that, I know some good folks at Walmart. I know that, these decisions made above their head.
We love Walmart. We love low prices.
That being said, though, I'm not gonna lie, unless you just really got to go there. Yeah, I would say maybe look at Target or something like that, or any other your local retailer. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. Trevor, what about you? I mean, and also, Trevor, you also had an opportunity to attend that LA dinner, that we spoke about in the previous segment. But, in a magic wand, what would you like to see more of around community for 2025?
Yeah, I think is very simply put, more plugs, more access to understanding where the plugs are. I forget, I think it was Alasia Regina who mentioned just like we have so much kind of uncovered power within these organizations, within these communities. And it's always good when you get one-on-one time with somebody to be able to say, okay, well, what are you working on? How can I help you? Oh, you need to talk to Joey, you need to talk to Scooter, you need to talk to Kit, whatever it might be. But, kind of, if I could wave that magic wand and see kind of, as I meet somebody or as I talk to somebody, see their plugs and they allow for them to be able to see mine. I know LinkedIn allows that, but to be able to really say like, oh, like you're trying to get something done at Chick-fil-A, for example, before you do anything, you need to have a conversation with my boy Antoine. He's going to give you the whole rundown as to where to plug into, where to not. And like that can just save somebody so much time, so much energy. And it's a new connection made there as well. So I think, I don't know if it's a widget or AI or something of that nature, even in, LinkedIn or whatever communities we navigate, but being able to really kind of understand not just like where the plug is, but like the plugs that are willing to participate and provide and kind of give back to the community. I think that's what I would use my magic wand wave for.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Casey, I want to kick it over to you for the final question.
No, so what you just said, Trevor, actually ties into what my final question is, and that's, you said if you had your magic wand, you would wish for more plugs, more people who were serving as community builders. And so for some of us, the notion of becoming a community builder is like, wait, do we have to go through like the training, or like where is the community builder manual in order to know like how to do? So for any of you, if someone is watching this and saying like, oh, I didn't know, just having this minimal knowledge about this one particular aspect of my company could potentially spark a community of folks who want to know about this, or I don't think I'm a community builder, I just I'm just trying to do things. What would you say to them in terms of becoming a community builder?
Maybe I'll jump in and say, first off, it's a commitment each day, right? So I remember when I was a martial arts instructor, kind of the thing was when you kind of change from your normal clothes to your martial arts uniform before you go teach a class, that's a quick 2 minutes of just committing and recommitting to making sure the kids are going to learn today, and you're going to inspire confidence, and you're going to, teach discipline. And I think that's kind of the same thing every day with a community builder. And I think in that, it's knowing that that commitment is to the community and to the betterment of that community, right? And so, it's not about the shine, or it's not about, how well you do. I mean, obviously you want to do well, but like, how well are you facilitating other people to achieve their dreams and goals is how I think about it. And I think if that's a North Star, then the actions kind of fall in line, and, the rest can be figured out. But yeah.
Yeah, I just add anybody can be a community builder. We all can. It doesn't have to mean you're doing it for a living, or there's a formal way. You don't have to join a club or do a program, even though those exist. But yeah, just show up and think about how you can connect dots for someone, and knowing that community is more of a practice than it is like a discipline. So I love what you just said about making the commitment every day. I think that that's like it in a nutshell, regardless if you're brand new or if you've been doing this forever.
I think for me, like curiosity and care kind of come into play. I think I'm a pretty curious person, and I think that's probably what sparked my experience as a community builder. And I think if it is somebody watching this in an organization, or just on their own, or whatever it might be, really kind of diving into that specific point where that you may find fascination or curiosity in. I had no healthcare background, but as I got more and more into it, the complexities and the inequalities really fascinated me, and kind of I developed my own thesis around like, how do I like open the door more for us and kind of have more, provide more space for founders that are looking to kind of help make things a little more equal in healthcare. I think that from a care standpoint, always trying to wonder like, well, how can I help you out? Like, well, what do you need? What I've found in that is like it's been mutually beneficial in the sense of like people who you're looking to, like if I send a company who's looking to raise to KT, I gain nothing from that, but KT now knows that I've got community, and this founder knows that I also knows the same thing. Just operating off an economy of goodwill, quite frankly.
So wow, yeah, between the three of you, it's like commitment, curiosity, care are like the magic ingredients of being a community builder. It all seems so simple, even though what you do is so complex and affects so many people's lives, which is amazing. Y'all should, yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
Super cool. Oh yeah. I don't know if anybody, we got like one or so more minutes. Anybody else want to chime in? If not, we can.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing. I was raised in a Southern Baptist church, So I will say where 2 or 3 are gathered, that's all it takes. If there's a problem that you're trying to solve, you can bet that there's 2 or 3 people with that same problem who are also looking to solve it. Find those 2 or 3, it'll turn to 4 and 5 and then 6 or 7 and so on and so forth. So just start. I think just start solving the problem. And yeah, the community will grow.
I would throw in one more C. I don't think it really fits. I'm trying to make it a C, but it's probably the cochlear ear. So listening. I think that listening to the community is critical to building it. Just as what kind of everyone is mentioning, this idea of like being in the midst and, being able to connect, but then like as you're connecting, you're listening to their challenges, you're listening to the common thread, amongst everyone, and like why are we all here? Like what is prompting us to want to connect and be here, and learn and kind of connect with each other. So I do think that, the community builder as being like the chief listener, chief listening officer or something like that. Maybe that's the C. I don't know. Is also kind of that key to making more and more people want to come, because you're listening and then you're reflecting and you're listening and you're reflecting it back. And they're like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And that's what you're thinking. Okay, well, then let's talk about this and this. So I would throw that in there as well.
Super dope. Super dope.
Chief listening officer.
Super dope.
I was trying to stay with the theme. That's what I was doing.
I love it. I know. So again, I'm sure you all got lots of stuff on your plate in terms of people wanting your time. So I truly appreciate it. Thank you all for coming out. We will we'll keep the party rolling. We got another segment coming up. I'm going to share with you all a little bit later on my idea. I know we're at time and stuff like that. So Alasia, Regina, Trevor, Scooter, KT, thanks a ton for coming out. You are true inspirations. I truly appreciate you all's work in building community. Peace out. Okay, so here's my idea. As they're long, here's my idea. Again, for imagining that, and it was actually something Scooter said, and then also powered by something Regina said. Right. So people oftentimes ask me what is my future as a community builder. I said there's no real true defined career pathway. Right. You do see a lot of community organizers and builders go into politics. Right. And so again, piggybacking off of what something Scooter said and Regina, I think there's opportunities to do trainings for community builders like how politicians are trained. Not saying it's the same exact thing, but I think we can take bits and pieces of those kind of curriculums and then train community builders on it to make sure they're informed and stuff like that. So I think that was a super cool segment. We are going into our last major segment of the day. So that segment was called The Plug, right? You got a chance to see some amazing community builders from across the U.S. building in the health space, or focusing on Black women, or focusing on tech in general. Excuse me. And so super appreciative of them. And again, this is Goodie Nation on Giving Tuesday, a 4-hour live streaming session to raise awareness for what Goodie Nation is doing next year, what we've done already this year. And so if again, it wasn't obvious to you all, we're going to put more resources into supporting community builders moving forward. There's a lot of kind of things that overlap between our previous sessions on performance and mindset, in these city-based chapters of Goodie Nation, these industry-based chapters of Goodie Nation, these identity-based chapters, of Goodie Nation. And super excited because the next segment we're going to go into is called Invest in the Hustle, right? Invest in the hustle. And so in this particular case, we do a lot of connections, a lot of community building, and connecting startup founders with sources of capital, right? We talk about this whole thing around the relationship gap, and that's really what it started from, right? Really what it started from, because for the last 10 to 15 years, or really like the last 12 or so years in the tech space, all the conversations as it relates to diverse founders has been around their lack of access to capital, which is a big thing. Now, there's been a lot of progress made in the last 5 years, particularly the last 4 years since the murder of George Floyd. A lot more capital is flowed into the hands of diverse founders, particularly venture capital. But a few things, and we were going to bring some folks to the stage in a second. There is an argument that could be made that perhaps venture capital might not be the best pathway for most entrepreneurs, right? And then there's another set of arguments to be made that we need more training for people that are angel investors, right? And then also connecting these angel investors to dope startup founders. Like there's a whole thing around that, and not a lot of people are talking about it. So we're about to bring a few folks to the stage to talk about really, this concept. So we've done a few things, this year, in the space. And so gonna bring up Olayinka, Justin, Jamon, also Toby is here as well. And so want to go, dig a little bit deeper into this concept, but again, investing in the hustle, right? Investing in the hustle. So I'm gonna go around and do some kind of quick intros. And then we will kind of get to the meat of the conversation. Toby, I'm going to start with you first. If you could give just a quick intro, name your company, or 1 or 2 sentence description, and then also where you're based out of.
Yeah. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'm Toby. Thanks, Joey, for having me. I'm the founder of a company called Chezzy. We help businesses build more impactful employee resource groups. We are based here in Atlanta, Georgia. Been here for about going on 4 years now, and Chezzy works with companies like DocuSign, the NBA, Airbnb, a handful of others. So excited to be here. Very passionate about alternative funding and just making sure that folks know that VC isn't necessarily the best route for every company. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Olayinka. Olayinka, we can't hear you. And maybe it's the headphones or something. Sometimes there's an issue there. So actually, let's do this. While you're doing that, we're gonna go ahead and go over to Justin for a quick intro. Then we'll go Jamon, and then we'll circle back to you, Olayinka.
Hey everybody, my name is Justin Dawkins. I'm co-chair of Goodie Nation. It's one of the many hats that I wear, but also run an angel syndicate and angel academy called Halo, where we really focus on alternative sources of capital while also educating the next generation of angel investors on different ways that they can invest in small businesses and startups. So happy to be here as always, and looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, and Brother Ruffin.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Jamon Ruffin. I run a data services consultancy. We build custom data solutions for enterprises. We also have our flagship product is a serverless data lakehouse on object storage. I've been in Atlanta for about 4 years now. I moved out here from San Francisco during COVID, and I'm happy to be here today.
There it is. And Jamon it's 2 things. One, it's founder, but also participating in our Equity Wings program to train angel investors. And Olayinka, you want to try again? Oh no, I can't. At least I can't hear. Okay, yeah. If you want to try again, and maybe like Casey, you want to maybe backstage kind of try to work it out with her. Cool. And so while we're doing this, Toby, I actually want to kick it over to you, right? So can you explain a little bit more around your fundraising journey, perhaps, and how that sets up into your thought process around, fundraising or raising investment capital for founders, particularly diverse founders?
Sure. Yeah. So as I mentioned, we started the company about 3 years ago. We started with about $20K of our personal money. I founded the company Chezzy with my younger sister, Dumaybe. And From there, we went directly into grant funding. So we've been very, very fortunate in our founder journey to win close to 300,000, or I think at this point over 300,000 in grants. So we won some from some money from NPR, from Google, from Amazon, and then some smaller grants just kind of here and there. We took that grant money, we built out a team, we built out our product, we signed some initial customers, and then we kind of just started to follow what I think is the traditional tech and startup playbook and went out to try to raise venture capital. That was an absolute nightmare in terms of my mental health and how challenging it was, but a lot of people will tell you that about VC fundraising. But we ended up closing the round, and we raised about $800,000 for a pre-seed round at the start of 2023. And since then, we've explored additional options for funding. So we've done some more pitch competitions. We recently taken out about $125K in loans from CapChase and Invest Atlanta, a program based here. And now we are profitable. So, kind of just like investing the profits that we have back into the business and able to kind of control our own destiny here. But I think over this fundraising journey that I've taken, because I've mentioned so many different sources. At this point, I think total we've taken in about 1.3 million in funding from all these different sources. I think the number one lesson for me has just been to, figure out whatever funding path is best for you. And in many cases, again, I think a lot of founders get stuck on like needing or wanting to raise venture capital because it's cool. It is like really cool to be able to say that you've raised venture capital successfully. But if you just think about the nature of venture capital and the idea that VCs are looking for big moonshot businesses, the truth is that most companies aren't moonshots. They're like 25% different from something that already exists there. That's Chesney included. And that was something that I didn't necessarily realize until after we had raised our venture capital money. And again, now we're profitable. So it's a little bit easier for us to not need to go out and raise anymore. But yeah, the big lesson is just to, and we can talk a little bit more about this, obviously, but the big lesson is to figure out whatever method of funding is best for you and not to turn down anything. Obviously, pitches and grants are great and everyone's going to be open to those, but loans, venture debt, friends and family money, anything that you can do. There are a bunch of different funding routes out there, and I just want more founders to be aware of what those different funding routes are and how they can help them, get their business off the ground or get to profitability or whatever their next milestone is.
No, I love it. I mean, and so, there's several different things that you taught about. It could probably be their own show. Quite honestly, the psychology of wanting to raise it seems cool and stuff like that, but we're not going to delve into this. Well, maybe it may kind of go that way. But I do want to talk about the family and friends part. But I do want to circle back to Olin. You can see if perhaps you were able to get your audio worked out.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Yay! Okay, should I still do my intro?
Yeah. Quick intro. Yep.
Okay. Olayinka, founder and managing director of OIS. I do wealth equity strategy and business development. So I'm happy to be here to join the conversation.
There it is. Okay, so Justin, before we go to Olayinka and then Jaman, I want you to kind of set up the context, right? So Toby mentioned a few things, right? Even that's an interesting stat. I actually never heard about that. Or like most companies are 25% better than I guess the alternative and stuff, which isn't big enough for venture capital, right? From an investment standpoint, but it seems like it could be good for family and friends around. So, Justin, can you share a little bit more around your thoughts on the need for alternative sources of capital for potentially for companies, for startups that may not necessarily be on that venture capital pathway?
Yeah. Thank you again, Joy, for bringing us all here to have what I think is a very important conversation and very timely. To me, the story, the journey all starts with, honestly, the internet. The internet has been a marvel. It's been a tool that's created a lot of wealth, created a lot of opportunity, helped to bring healing to the world in a lot of different ways. But one of the things the internet has not done, one of the other things the internet has done, is it created all these different types of businesses, and the capital markets just never really caught up to that. And so if you look historically over time, there's really been only kind of two primary tools or instruments, and that's been debt and equity, right? Give up a piece of the pie to take in additional capital to grow a business, or you're able to leverage debt in order to grow and scale a business. And again, it just depends on the type of business. But what the internet did is it really started to fragment, and we started to see all different types of businesses pop up. We saw SaaS and software, we saw e-commerce businesses, obviously the iPhone and other technologies brought about the app era. And so all these different types of businesses created new business models, but the capital markets never really evolved at the same rate. We've seen some evolutions, revenue-based financing through great companies like PayPal and others. But when it comes to starting a business, you're still oftentimes too early or too young, if you will, for a lot of those products. And so what I think is critical and to set the tone to your point, Joey, is that now is an incredibly important time to turn inward and look at how our friends and family can support and what tools are out there and available to us to enable us to raise as little as 25, 50K up to millions of dollars through community rounds or friends and family rounds. I think it's an incredibly important time and a necessary tool to make sure that we are building healthy economies, but also allowing companies to be exactly what they should be. And oftentimes what venture capital will do is if you take in money from a VC, they need you to produce $1 billion exit so that they can produce returns for their investors. And sometimes we see entrepreneurs turn their business into something that they didn't necessarily want it to be, or unfortunately fail and just kind of burn out. So having additional access points to capital, I think, is incredibly important. And we're happy to explore that through the various programs at Goodie Nation and also Halo.
There it is. There it is. Okay, so what we're setting up here is a discussion on the potential of investing more, or let me not say, because this is a print about investing, giving more resources to training angel investors. So let's talk about essentially the family and friend stage. Now at Goodie Nation, we are about community, right? We may not be able to do anything about your family, but we can do something about your friends, right? We can give you more friends, maybe more friends that got a little bit of money and stuff like that. So, so this year we, with support of Cape Port Center, we were able to do a program to train potential angel investors. We partnered with Center for Black Entrepreneurship. We partnered with Black VC in Atlanta and 1248 Angels on a month-long program to train potential accredited investors and existing accredited investors on how to become an angel investor, and then put them on a pipeline or a pathway to investing in diverse-led startups, particularly Black-led startups here in Atlanta. So I'm going to kick it to Olayinka at first to kind of share a little bit more about your experience, kind of some things you learned, what you're excited, how much impact did it have on you, and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me. Doing the program, when I first saw it really just advertised, one of the first things I thought was, oh, wow, this is so needed. Because I, as a previous founder myself, I did have to do raising capital and moving more towards like the investing side and working with philanthropic investing, institutional investing. I just saw a gap, like a huge gap. I'm like, okay, so there's founders that are raising capital, and then I'm working as an investor on different funds that are moving institutional capital. But then there's like a whole group of people here who they have the access, they have the resources. They're not necessarily professional investors, but they're also really interested in building community, and they have the resources to do that. And then there's also regulations, like, being certified and accredited. And so I saw that gap, and I was super excited about it. I myself made like maybe a couple small angel investments up until that point. And I was like, I just kind of leaped in. I was really passionate about these two businesses, and I was like meeting with the founders, and they needed some capital. And I was like, I'm about to do it. And I jumped in, and I was like, okay, let me just take a step back. And so it was really, really instrumental to join the program, go through the classes, meet other angel investors or accredited investors, and really just like have a community to grow together. We still text each other, and we're talking about what it would look like to further the impact. And so particularly for me, it made me feel real confident in that this is the route that I want to take to continue to invest in entrepreneurs in my journey as a founder and investor as well.
I love it. I love it. And Jamal, what about you? Again, you on one hand, you are a founder, but you also participated in the program. So what type of, impact did it make on you? What kind of things did you learn and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, the most interesting thing was finding out the criteria that angel investors use to evaluate startups. I think it was really interesting because coming from San Francisco, I think Augustus actually spoke one of these sessions. He's a former colleague at YouTube. Coming from San Francisco, a lot of the due diligence is a lot more hand wavy. It's very possible to write a check over a lunch. But then you're coming to it. When I was coming to Atlanta and finding out how people thought about companies here, it was very, very eye-opening. One thing I would say is there is a lot more need for traction, right? Gone are, I guess, ZERP is over. So gone are the days of raising on a deck. Instead, you have to have now, even MVPs are kind of over. You really have to have a fully fledged product. So thinking about that, thinking about the people that we brought in to speak to us were actually pretty cool. And the attendees were pretty cool. One of the best things about this was we all met up for a kickoff early on. So just getting to come and talk to everybody that was involved, you kind of saw the caliber of people that Joey and Co organized. And honestly, for me, the most important thing that I gained from Equity Wings was access to this community of professionals that have a ton of diverse skill sets. So maybe it's somebody who went to Berkeley with me actually is a go-to-market expert, right? And that's something that I need for my own firm. Or talking with somebody like Justin, who is obviously in VC, right? Those connections were really important to me. And another thing I wanted to jump off of was what Toby said earlier, alternative sources of financing. I know he mentioned that he put in about 20K of his own money. For me, I was able to finance my company. I worked in tech for a really long time. So I was able to finance my company with my own assets, right? Basically a PAL, an asset loan from Schwab. And they keep it in an account for you and you just kind of manage it. You're paying some negligible interest rate on your own money. But that was one route that I did not know was available prior. And that was a real game changer for me because I thought that going out and attempting to raise VC would be a job in and of itself. And I would rather focus that time on building the best, coolest product that I could.
Nah, that's super cool, man. That's super cool. Love to hear the key learns. And so, Toby, I want to kick it back to you, right? And so, and also Casey, if you have any questions, and we got about 10 or so minutes left, right? So now, Toby, hearing, we'll take into account your feelings around, raising capital, knowing that there are more intentional efforts in training, particularly people of color, to become investors at that family and friend stage. What are some of your thoughts on it? What do you think the potential is and things of that nature?
The potential for friends and family rounds?
Yeah, investing, or again, let me not say investing, but giving more resources to developing out that community of people even more.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were, to my surprise, we were able to raise around, I think it was like 110,000 from friends and family. And this is like, defining friends and family very loosely because we had like uncles of cousins of friends putting in stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it'd be super, super powerful. I'm 100% aware that my story and the amount of money that we were able to raise from friends and family is not the norm by any means. In many cases, I think founder would be lucky to be able to get, secure $10,000 in friends and family money. There's multiple reasons for why that money is less available. But I think the part of it is that these days you just don't need as much money as you used to build a company, right? In many cases, I think a lot of founders would be able to build something profitable and if they're smart, with like 100K, 150K, 250K max. And if you're talking about that amount of money, venture capital, like it literally actually isn't even an option, right? So then you start talking about other options, other ways to get that amount of money, and friends and family is a great route for it. So yeah, I mean, it makes total sense to me that an improved pipeline or improved access to people that can contribute to a friends and family round or a small angel round would increase the number of underrepresented founders starting companies, because they're getting just the amount of money that they need. And I think for a couple of reasons, like underrepresented founders are just inherently scrappy, right? So like when part of it, I don't want to go down too many tangents here, but they can leverage that scrappiness to use the money exactly how it needs to be used to get their businesses off the ground and maybe even get some profitability, whether that's like working with contractors instead of full-time people or leveraging AI where they can, et cetera. So I think it's great. I'm curious, to see like the impacts of the Goodie Nation Angel and Friends and Family program that y'all have going, but it's definitely something that we need. And, I would love to see how, what the downstream impacts are.
No, I love it. I mean, super dope, super dope. Yeah, so let's talk about it a little bit. Ole Inca, I want to pass it over to you. And so similar question in the previous folks. So magic wand moment, right? Imagine that. What would you like to see more of in 2025, right? So if you had a magic wand for us to do, anything we want to with Equity Wings and stuff like that, money is no constraint or no constraints at all. What would you like to see more of or happen?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm running for president. The pressure. Okay. This is a great question. A really good question. With no constraint, I would like to see more. I think more like maybe a sector of like sections. So if you are approaching accreditation, maybe something like, okay, what do you need to prepare for that accreditation? And I had this wild idea that there would be some sort of pot of money that would go towards each angel investor in this approaching accreditation stage, that they could then use that to then invest in a company, or there be someone who already has the resources or the finances, and that they would be able to really learn what it's like to not just understand what type of investment businesses you should look for to invest in, but also then to become a resource in a community for those around them. And so typically what you'll find is that most people who are approaching wanting to become an angel investor, they usually have a network of people who would like to do the same thing. And so I think becoming an investor is really not that hard. And maybe with me being in the industry for a while, I may oversimplify it, but I don't think it's that hard. I think it's really just understanding what you need to look for, and then understanding what it looks like to then invest in that founder. Because the worst thing that and I think to a point, I don't remember who said it earlier, but someone mentioned like what you would need to do to receive a certain amount of money. I think Toby, you mentioned how you raised $100,000. But if you think about the idea or the possibility for that investment to come from, it just depends on what you're offering that founder, right? So like you can say, hey, I'll give you 25K check. And what type of investment are you then making? Are we talking about a safe? Are we talking about a grant or a loan? Are we talking about a convertible note? Because then that will open up the door to additional and even higher means of capital. Because there's people who have the resources, middle class, making a good amount of money, and they're really open and interested in having a personal stake and seeing these founders develop their skills. And so I think just in general, I would love to see more of a pipeline. I think that's what I'm trying to say. A pipeline of people with resources who are then learning how to then take those resources and invest it strategically, and then give them options. So if you want to invest 5 to 25K, this is what we recommend. If you want to invest 50 to 100K. And so this amount of money that Toby, you're saying is not as common, it'll be more common. You'll be surprised how many people do have 25 to 50K that they would love to figure out how they would like to invest in an opportunity, but they just want to feel like they have the knowledge and the pipeline and the vehicle to be able to do so. Yeah.
Oh, Now, so before I kick it over to Jamon, and we'll close this section out for everyone. I'm going to ask Justin as a board member to stay on if at all possible. So we talk about this relationship gap concept, right? Particularly through the lens of founders. If we take that and apply it to investors, what I personally love through this, or learned through this Equity Wings program, is that what Olenka said, right? So they experience a subsection of the relationship gap in two parts. One, on the information around how to make investments, and then two, even if they have the information, getting access to the actual dope startups, right? And again, these are solvable problems. So I think we can unlock more capital and become more efficient if we put more resources toward training more angel investors. So Jamal, what about you? Like magic wand moment, right? Let's say you could do anything. What would you like to see more of in 2025 as it relates to the training of angel investors?
I was going to go a completely different way. No. So I think for me, the thing that I would like to see more of is some way to have like a pool of vetted startups, because it did seem like there were not as many. It's harder to get in touch with a lot of the founders in Atlanta, right? I'm still meeting new people every day that just kind of pop up. So as I'm looking to make that first investment, just knowing who's out there. Again, I don't expect you guys to bring me deal flow or anything, but just making those introductions and saying, hey, this is someone who, one of the things that you guys are really good at is even when you first sign up for Goodie Nation, right? You send an email connecting you to somebody in the network who you think can help, right? And doing that for startups and investors would be absolutely amazing in a really controlled way. And then one thing I did want to mention, taking a step back, I did mention that the days of ZERP are over, but for Black founders, it was never really there, right? Only about 0.5% of VC funds go to Black founders anyway, which is wild when you think about where they come from, right? These are typically institutional investors. And when you think about what is an institution, it's going to be like a teachers union, a firefighters union, a police union. A lot of those people are people of color, right? And so in one sense, it's like they're putting their money into this thing and they're not funding people who look like them, which is weird. But one of the speakers at Equity Wings mentioned that they sometimes get refused, right, when they offer a check. And I thought that was really interesting because it's like basically this founder is oversubscribed, they've got a lot of interest in their round. But when I'm thinking about Black founders, right, I think they mentioned it. They hadn't seen any Black founders turn down checks, right? They are never in that position. So one thing that I've been thinking, raising money on my own is, all right, well, this may be for my friends and family, this may be the only time that they have access to a vehicle like this, right? Typically what you're gonna see, especially if you're in Silicon Valley, is the networks are really closed, right? And so you go back to Goodie Nation's mission, they're trying to close that relationship gap. I worked there for 15 years and I have relationships with largely African-American people and people of color in the Bay, right? I don't have the same relationships with that same wide relationship set that would be really great for trying to raise money, trying to get access to some of these seed stage rounds. Yeah. Oh, wow. Only point. Wow. Okay. I'll actually let it.
Yeah. Now, so a few things, right? So one, everyone should definitely follow Toby on LinkedIn for his thoughts on raising capital. As he goes in much deeper there too. But again, I'm going to draw a quick line. I know we're at time for this segment as we close up, and then we're going to have Justin stay on and talk about his magic wand. But Toby's made the case for not investing as much, or for different sources of capital, particularly around the family and friends round. And Olenka and Jamon have talked about their experiences and the impact. And so they're also all in Atlanta, right? And so I think we can amplify the impact in Atlanta, and then draw the line between what we talked about earlier and doing in places like LA and New York and Chicago and stuff like that. It's something that we're focused on for 2025 with Goodie Nation. So So Toby, Olayinka, and Jamon, truly appreciate you all and sharing your thoughts. And definitely follow all these good folks on LinkedIn, particularly Toby around his thoughts on this topic. So truly appreciate you all. And so as y'all as they exit here, Justin, I want to kick it to you. For your magic wand, what would you like to see in 2025?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joey, first for the vision for Equity Wings and pulling that wonderful cohort of folks together, both for founders and aspiring and current angels. For me, it kind of breaks down into kind of three things. The first is, evolving from friends and family to community rounds, right? I've heard that word, and that's something that Goodie Nation prides itself in, which is providing community and cultivating communities for amazing startup founders and diverse founders. So, thinking about friends and family and expanding to community, I think we heard Toby mention that it was the cousin of the friend kind of thing. So more of that and leveraging our customer base. And we can do that now through crowdfunding platforms, which leads me to my second point. I think there are amazing tools out there that still require a lot of education. We're actively working in concert right now with WeFunder on various ways to support entrepreneurs, particularly entrepreneurs of color and maybe in disparate and challenging markets where capital is difficult to raise. But President Obama signed a great bill years ago, almost over a decade now, via the Jobs Act, and there's an incredible opportunity that we can take advantage of in our communities to raise those 150, 250, 300K rounds from our community, from our customers. And so I think that's an incredible opportunity. And I would love to see Atlanta lead in some of those, usage of some of those tools. And then I think finally, the imagine that theme is redefining success. I think Toby hit the nail on the head. I think it is cool. It is cool to say, hey, I was able to build connection and relationships with VCs, and they, put money and support behind me. And that's great. And we want to continue to celebrate that. But I don't want to limit our success to that metric. I think there's an incredible opportunity to redefine success. And that's what I'm hoping we can do in 2025 as things continue to shift and evolve around us, both in the natural and the natural world, the financial world, and other ways. Is how do we redefine success? Is it raising a community round? Is it supporting entrepreneurs, which I think is incredibly important? Yes, write the check, but also open up your network, give access, give guidance. Be a little bit more heavy-handed where appropriate to support founders and entrepreneurs. And I think we can really, really start to turn inward and support one another to build, strong businesses that can still be sizable and employ people, but drive economic growth for our communities and for the places that we love. So those would kind of be my three things that I would kind of pull together and say into my imagine that magic wand. So thank you again, Joy, for the time and the opportunity.
There it is. I love it. I mean, there's some amazing action items there. I mean, this is a perfect way to kind of cap off the day. So we've been streaming since 10 a.m. Eastern straight. Casey and I, and mainly Casey just been putting up me just randomly talking and stuff like that. But I don't know, Kay. I don't know, Justin, if you had been able to catch any of the conversations before you hopped on. But Casey, any of your Casey, really, this isn't really anything. Let me ask you your magic wand moment, right? I want you to imagine that for a second, right? Anything that you would want to see in 2025, and it could be anything, right? This whole United States of good concept, whether it be building community on a local level, it could be around, the grind to greatness and supporting founders. It could be around community building. It could be around training angel investors and stuff. It could be anything, right? It could be story, whatever. What's your magic wand moment or moments?
Ooh, my magic wand moment. So from just the things that we've chatted about today, some of the things that have sparked my curiosity, going back to the very, very beginning with the Tenet folks, and one of them saying like, yeah, I listened to the Nas Illmatic album in order to get a sense of how I wanted to, shape the branding and marketing plan for Goodie Nation. I love the thought of tech folks, innovation folks, and artists and creatives figuring out some way to cross-pollinate more. I think that's, I've said it multiple times on multiple Goodie Nation podcasts, the parallels between artists who are like, I have this idea, I have to bring this idea out into the world. Okay, but I don't have the money to do it. How am I going to do it? I can't stop thinking about it. I have to figure this out. And folks in the innovation space who are doing the same thing with their companies and their businesses. And now I have to raise, and it's like all the same thing. And so I want us to like hang out more. I want to get a group of founders to come see a play. I want a group of actors or designers to come to a Goodie Nation event about anything. All founders need therapy. All artists need therapy. I just the parallels between us, all of us as creators, I think would just be so cool if that's, especially here in Atlanta, where, the cross-pollination between entertainment and tech and music tech and all the things is so like blurred anyway. If we could like hang out more, I think that we would learn so much from each other, because I know myself, I've learned so much from you all just like being in spaces. And yeah, my magic wand would be to like have nerds and art school kids hang out more. So that would be mine.
I love it. I love it. So you sit there saying like you all, but I mean, so a few things. I think what you're referencing is it's really innovators, and that's one of the reasons why, again, you'll see from a language standpoint, and we had the good folks from Tenet on earlier in helping us kind of rethink some of the marketing strategy, including the copy that we use. Instead of saying just tech, we're going to start using innovation more, and that's on purpose. I think my personal belief is that technology is a subset of innovation, but innovation takes the form or forms in many different ways, right? So again, artists can be innovators, right? And so I think kind of ending what you're saying, Casey, is that we could do more around the country around bringing innovators together, and some people that are in the technology space, and then people that are usually kind of labeled as creators, but again, they are innovators as well, right? And to that end, and I know Emory has done some work on this, and it's kind of started toward the end of the pandemic around art exhibitions, and they actually had like 2-3 years ago. Shout out to Floyd Hall there. They had an art exhibit focused on mental health, right? And we did some work on them. But I think what might it look like? And it doesn't have to be in Atlanta, but what might it look like if a group of and I'm going to say tech on purpose, people in the Goodie Nation community in Atlanta all went to an art exhibit together, right? And things of that nature, whether it be at the High Museum of Art, whether it be at another museum in Atlanta, or whether that's LA or Chicago or New York or in Miami. What does that look like? Imagine that, and imagine the power there. So Zuccotti, yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's no shortage of places, not only in Atlanta, but across the country. Right. So yeah. Anything else? What about you, Justin? Anything else you would like to see? I know you talked about the thing around, investing and stuff, but any other, things you want to add to the imagine that kind of canvas?
Yeah, I think Casey, I think you're pointing to what I think is an incredible opportunity. I'm thinking about the intersectionality of these spaces and these creative folks, these innovators. What happens when you put creatives, classically trained freestylers in a room with technologists, with AI professionals, with software developers and product managers? What kind of magic can we produce, and how can Atlanta lead? We have there's a saying that Atlanta influences everything. I'm very curious to see what Atlanta will own and lead in. And so I'm very excited about that. I think there's a lot of, categorically, there's healthcare, there's music and entertainment, there's construction and engineering. There's just so many great spaces and massive markets And we have the talent here. We have the skill set. We have the ecosystem. And, you know, to Joey's point and to the purpose of Goodie Nation is to really drive efficiency into this. And so that's one of the things that I'm looking most forward to is, you know, how do we rate our efficiency, and then how do we improve that? So I imagine us to have an efficiency score about like how effective and how easily or difficult it is for an entrepreneur to move their business to Atlanta or move themselves and start a business here. You know, what does it look like for, you know, pipelining young people through the education system, through college, you know, into apprenticeships and mentorship and other opportunities to develop skills, and then right into the workforce, right into the startup space and building businesses. So I look forward to that, and I imagine at some point, and hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to say this is how efficient we are. You know, for every person that moves here, there's X number of connections, Y number of dollars, and Z outcomes and output that we're able to produce because we have one of the most efficient ecosystems. And you know, the inspiration behind that is the airport. You know, the world's busiest and most efficient airport. We can move packages and people better than anybody on the planet. And I think Atlanta has the opportunity to do that. And Goodie Nation, even though it is a national program with kind of nodes and pods throughout, I'm still look forward to seeing Atlanta lead in a lot of those ways. So, you know, thank you again, Joy, for the opportunity. And I look forward to leading with you and others on this mission to become the most efficient entrepreneurial ecosystem in the world.
There it is. I love it. I love it. I love it. So as we kind of wrap up here, you know, Casey, I know you've been sitting and listening, you know, for almost 4 straight hours. I don't know if you have any thoughts as we, you know, throughout the entire day. I don't know, theme, just general thoughts and stuff. I'll let you chew on that for a second, but I just want to kind of reset the room. So again, this is Goodie Nation on Giving Tuesday, the 5th annual Goodie Nation on Giving Tuesday, our live stream, which is also a testament to see how long, you know, we can consecutively, how many hours we can consecutively stand up and talk. And so this is for Giving Tuesday, right? This is for Giving Tuesday. And so the objective here is to share with you all some of the things that we did this year from a Goodie Nation perspective, share, you know, our plans for next year, for 2025. And so you got a little bit of a peek into it. But it's all about also, you know, making sure Goodie Nation has the resources to execute those things, right? So again, if the spirit kind of comes over you, you feel like you like what you heard, you want to donate, please consider texting Goodie 24 to 707070 and making a donation. We're a nonprofit. You know, we've obviously been hurt by the DEI headwinds, which have been accelerated in the past 30 days, quite honestly. And so we do have plans to build a more positive, you know, innovation ecosystem moving forward, right? And so how we're thinking about doing that is focusing more on community building. We outlined that earlier, focusing on building sub-communities based on city, based on in cities like Atlanta, New York, LA, Chicago, DC, and more, based on identity with the queens of innovation project, you know, kind of fostered by the BOE. And so, you know, we also want to focus on industry like health and education, you know, and more, right? We want to do more things around supporting community builders in the innovation space, making sure they get the resources that they need, the support that they need. We want to focus more on training people to become investors at the family and friends stage, right? And then we also have our flagship Post Accelerator program, where we will be spending more time focused on leadership development for startup founders, and particularly through the lens of performance mindset. All right. So again, if any of that speaks to you, think that we should do more of it, please consider making a contribution, a donation, no matter the size, by texting Goodie 24 to 707070. Also, you can go to our website, goodienation.org, and click on donate on the donate button. But Casey, you know, your thoughts on the day as you listened throughout the entire almost 4 hours now.
Sure. Well, this 4 hours was almost just like a slice of what Goodie Nation and AVT does. And it almost is just like a great almost roadmap for someone who may stumble upon this, or for folks who maybe they know about one thing Goodie Nation does, or they're like, oh, y'all do like VC training? Like, what's that about? I didn't know that. You know, wherever you are, if you're just what is it? I don't know if tech curious is an actual term, or innovation curious. And you're like, I just want to meet more people in the Atlanta ecosystem. You have Atlanta Black Tech dinners, you have different events. You can just go and find people and ask questions. If you're like, oh, well, I have this thing that, I really want to help grow and nurture, but I'm not sure what the next step is. There are formal ways for you to join Goodie Nation, for you to find support and community and folks who can help you focus on growing your venture. If you're at the point where you're like, actually, we've been doing stuff for a couple of years, but we definitely are looking to go to that next level, there are folks who can help you look at different funding models, as you just heard, look at, different ways that specifically fit what it is that you're trying to do. But the sort of overarching thing is like, you don't have to show up perfect. You don't have to show up knowing exactly what the right thing is to say. Like, everyone is so chill and so accommodating, and they look at like founders and community builders not just as like businesses. It's not just about, we're trying to look at your numbers, we're trying to get you your deals. There's this like holistic sense of support about your mental health, checking in with your family, checking in with not working sometimes, which is a thing that you should do. So yeah, I feel like this 4 hours was just sort of like the big sampler platter of like all the possibilities. And so, of course, hoping folks support if there is one particular thing that's like, oh, I would love to learn how I could support this. Love it. If you're like, overall, this whole thing sounds great, I just want to support everything. Love that too. But yeah, this is just a small piece of all of the things that happen. And with Imagine That being a theme, all of the things that are going to happen, all the things that are possible. So yes, come get the whole meal. I'm sorry, the 4 hours it's going now. No more metaphors. They're all bad, but great. This is great.
No, it's all good. This is, again, this is mental training, right? It definitely takes a lot. So, this has been amazing. Hopefully it gave everyone watching, whether you watched on Instagram, which you tested out for the first time, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or more, or here in the webinar. Thank you all for tuning in. And again, we got a lot of good plans for next year. We'll also put out the recording here because there's a lot of gems that were dropped. We'll be taking some of this content and sharing it throughout the rest of the year. Lots of gems dropped. Some of my favorite moments. Again, the BOE, the big ovary energy for Queens of Innovation. I really like the quote earlier on around how collaboration is the currency for progress, right? So many gems dropped, and looking forward to doing more and supporting the community moving forward. So, we got a few more days, a few more weeks until the end of the year, y'all, just in general. So have a plan, execute your plan. We'll come out strong at the top of the year. We got to stick together to make it through some interesting times we have moving forward as a community. So thank you all. And so we'll leave you with two things. The first one is what's on my my sweatshirt. So outwork yesterday, y'all. So again, make your plan and outwork yesterday. And the second one is what Justin Dawkins here said after the second Goodie hack, when it was at the opportunity hub, which is afterward he said, stay magnetic. So this Goodie Nation, thing back then, it was Goodie hack, and it was like we started being a hackathon for good. It was, the energy was magnetic, so he encouraged everyone to stay magnetic. So stay together, y'all. Stay together for your innovation community. Stay together for your friend group, and stay magnetic for your family as well as we get through these times. So peace out, y'all. We're looking forward to engaging with you moving forward. Thanks for tuning in, and see you later. Peace out.